Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 3 of our story. If you like this What If story and want to see part 4, let me know in the comments below. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Also, check the description for more great content and my playlist. This story was posted by 𝐀𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 on Wattpad. Now let's start. Have no fear, for I am 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐚 said, looking to see 𝐒𝐮𝐽 already on the ground unconscious and Midoryia comforting his teammates. 𝐒𝐮 cleared his throat. Well done, young Midoryia. I am glad to see you and your classmates are all right. 𝐒𝐮 walked over to place a pair of 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 cuffs on 𝐒𝐮𝐽. Why don't you three walk young Ida back to observation room while we get this all sorted out? Izuku and his friends nodded at his instructions and separated from their impromptu comforting hug and started to walk to their other classmate when two blurs flew through the door, latching onto him. Izuku, are you all right? Did the blonde butt hurt you? Miruko asked, hugging him so hard it almost made his back pop. She looked him over, checking for any injuries. She was tempted to go kick the blonde while he was down, but not with 𝐒𝐮 right next to him. Are you hurt anywhere? Do we need to take you to see recovery girl or your mom? Ryukyu asked, holding him tight as well before looking him over as well. She was grateful that he was safe. She kept an eye on her sister, knowing she would be tempted to deal out some justice towards 𝐒𝐮𝐽, and she couldn't blame her since she wanted to as well, but that would be unheroic. How unfortunate. Mina, Toru and Ida were surprised to see two pro-heroines fussing over their classmate like they were his mother. They watched as he tried to wave them off and tried to escape, but they were not taking no for an answer. They watched their homeroom teacher walk into the room with medical robots to place 𝐒𝐮𝐽 on a stretcher, and 𝐒𝐮 and their teacher talked for a moment before walking out of the room as if escorting a prisoner. Izuku let out a sigh as his sisters started to calm down enough for him to make them believe he was fine. Look, I swear I am fine. I promise, but my teammates needs to be checked for injuries at least. Izuku was almost begging for them to believe him. It was then that he realized something. Wait, what are you two doing here anyway? I know for a fact that you both were supposed to be out on your patrol routes today. He was starting to have a bad feeling about this. Ryukyu looked a little abashed. Well, we heard from Mom that you were having your first heroic class and we decided to make a surprise visit to support you. She laughed at his surprised expression. What, we are allowed to drop by UA? She didn't mention that it was not something pros did very often, but did so when they were scouting a specific student for their agencies. Yeah, I was glad I didn't miss it this. You did really well fighting that blonde runt, especially with how he had a meltdown. Mom and 𝐸𝐸𝐴 were also here to watch you as well. Miruko added as she beamed with sisterly pride as his absolute trashing of 𝐒𝐮𝐽. What? Mom and 𝐸𝐸𝐴 are here too? Let me guess, Midnight and me lady came to watch my training session as well. Izuku was afraid this would happen. They wanted to come see him in action, and it was going to be really embarrassing if his mother brought his baby picture with her. Yep, we got a good show coming here to watch you today. Miruko replied as smirk. I am so proud of you, little brother. She froze as she registered what she had just said. Oops. She looked over to Ryukyu, face palmed at her, letting the cat out of the bag. Then again, they had said Mom several times, so she had not helped the issue either. 𝐸𝐸𝐴, brother. His three classmates exclaimed in surprise before looking back and forth between the three of them. Izuku let out a tired sigh. Welp, guess the cat is out of the bag now. Izuku pinched the bridge of his nose. Mina, Toru, and Ida, meet my sisters Miruko and Ryukyu. He gestured to his sisters. Miruko and Ryukyu. Please meet my classmates. The pro-heroines waved at his classmates as they were a bit stunned at the revelation. As you both recall from class earlier, Midnight is also my sister along with 𝐸𝐸𝐴. Izuku figured it was like a band-aid, one swift motion would make it better than to drag it out. They just stared at him in disbelief. Their classmate had just claimed to be the little brother of 4 well-known pro-heroines and was acting like it was no big deal. Ida was not having a hard time processing this, as his brother was the pro-hero Ingenium and he would prefer to keep it to himself. Mina and Toru were in awe of such amazing heroines were standing in front of them. They were both resisting the urge to ask for an autograph or a selfie with such amazing heroines. Ryukyu chuckled. I think you broke them, Izuku. She snapped her fingers in front of them to get them to snap out of it. Now it is a pleasure to meet you all, but I think we need to get back to the viewing room so the next match may proceed. I am sure Mom and 𝗏𝗡𝐿𝐼a will want to see you as well to make sure you are okay, Izuku. Izuku agreed with his sister. I think that is a dash. Izuku, get back here quick. May is trying to go after 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐻 with a sledgehammer. Momo voice filled his comm link and his eyes went wide. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲, before he took off in dead sprint. Maruko and Ryukyu quickly on his heels. Language. Ida called out. He was utterly ignored by everyone. Wait, who is 𝗏𝗏𝐿𝐼a? Mina asked, chasing after them. I want to know. Hey, wait for me, guys. I want to know too. Toru called out, chasing after them. Ida let out a tired sigh and jogged after them at a brisk pace, wondering if this madness would stay for the rest of the year or if it was a one-time thing. The viewing room had settled down for the most part, with Vlad and Midnight being able to restore order quickly for both classes. Setsuna and Kyoka had been able to calm down the small girl to get her to stop hiding from everyone. Seats had been rearranged by the teachers so that those students who helped create a buffer around 𝗏𝗏𝐿𝐼a earlier was now seated in a similar way so that the other students could not hound her for answers. Ochako went and got the girl's backpack from Inko to get a few of her dolls from her bag to help get her relax. 𝗏𝗏𝐿𝐼a eyes lit up and hugged them close to her chest with a smile. Many in the room smiled at the young girl's reactions to having her dolls to hold, especially since they looked just like Izuku. Inko felt at ease watching the girls take care of her and become very protective of her that quickly. I feel a great swell of pity for the poor soul who comes to harm that girl in any way, shape or form. If Mama Bears doesn't take care of that person, then Papa definitely will. She really wanted to have a family dinner with them now. Her son knew how to pick amazing women in his life. Ever since her divorce, it had been just Izuku and her in their apartment. Now she had daughters in all, but BLD and a granddaughter. After they graduated from UA, she would add several daughter-in-laws. Her family had grown and looked forward to the day she was surrounded by family and many more grandchildren. The room turned to the sound of something running towards them, and in came a silver metallic fox, ran into the room, sliding to a stopping front of Inko. May watched the match between Izuku and 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐻 and is really upset. She is right behind me with a sledgehammer to break his legs. We have to stop her. Deku synthesized voice exclaimed. Inko looked at a milady who had quickly made her way to the door as the pink-hair girl came into the room with said sledgehammer in hand. Where is 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐻? Her voice was tight and full of rage. May dear, please calm down. Izuku. And the teachers have already taken care of it, so please put the hammer down. Milady told her with a gentle tone. She had been watching for any signs that May would tell how she was going to react. May seemed to think for a moment of what she had said. Okay, I will put the hammer down. Her tone was calm and she lowered the hammer slightly. The room seemed to relax at the fact she was lowering the sledgehammer. Lady let out a sigh of relief at the girl's words. Great, now just hand me the sledgehammer please and we can dash. I'm going to lay the hammer down on his legs. She shouted, raising the hammer back up and started moving towards the other door again. Oh hell. Lady said as she rushed to stop her and grabbed the hammer. It was easy to see that May was incredibly strong without a strength enhancement quirk. You a little help here? She asked as May had locked her arms and grip, making it hard to wrench it from her. Soon Kirishima and Tetsu rushed to her aid and they tried to do the same. Jesus, this chick is strong. Tetsu said, straining as his foot slid across the floor as May was powering through them with each step she took. Yeah, no kidding. Kirishima agreed as he struggled to keep his footing as well. We need more help please. Ibra was the next to aid them with the use of her vines. Please settle down, Miss May. The Bible frowns on harming our fellow man. Ibra could feel her vines were not holding her any better, holding her in place. Ibra did not like what 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐻 just tried to do just now, but vengeance was not the answer. It's a little vague on kneecaps. May replied, taking another step towards the door. Momo looked at Ochako. Go give them a hand while I call Izuku and get him to calm her down. On it. Ochako replied as she rushed to help. She was soon joined by Midnight trying to stop the girl. Izuku, get back here quick. May is trying to go after 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐻 with a sledgehammer. Momo called into the comlink. She rushed over to help the others still trying to stop May. It was terrifying that 7 of them were straining to stop her against her crusade to get 𝐒𝐿𝐴. Miss Midnight, can't you use your quirk on her? Momo asked, giving it everything she had to stop her. Somnambulist works better on men than women, and if I released it now all of you would be exposed to it, and I can't guarantee she would fall asleep fast enough. Midnight replied with a strained voice. Izuku rushed through the door. He called out before moving towards her. When she didn't respond to him, he got closer and gently placed his hands on both sides of her face. May eyes snapped to his face with a confused look. Zuzu, she asked before realizing he was in front of her. She stopped fighting against everyone and they all let out a breath of relief as this. Everyone took a step back, but were still waiting to jump back in if needed. May, I want you to take a deep breath with me, okay? Izuku asked her. When she nodded, he had her follow his breathing. In and out. They did this several times and her muscles were starting to relax. May, I know you were worried about what happened, but I am not hurt. He let her move her head, look him over. I saw him raise his gauntlet. May started before tears started to fall down her face. I was afraid that he... She relaxed the grip on the hammer enough that Kirishima had been able to swiftly get the sledgehammer from her and move away from her. May felt her knees beginning to shake. May, I need you focus on me and calm down. You are scaring 𝐴𝐿𝐴 and I know you don't want to do that, right? Izuku asked as gesturing to the small girl being held by Kyoka and Setsuna. Izuku could tell May was really upset and needed a bit more help to get her to calm down. Time for his secret weapon. May dropped to her knees. I didn't mean to dash. She started to say, but Izuku squatted down and hugged her. May was shocked on how angry she had been. She was going to seriously harm 𝐒𝐿𝐴 with that sledgehammer. She had not been that angry in such a long time that it had frightened her. She started to shake a bit. Shoo, he whispered gently. It's okay. Izuku started to rub her back to help calm her when he gestured for 𝐴𝐿𝐴 to come over. She hesitated for a moment, but rushed to his side. 𝐴𝐿𝐴, can you give May a hug to make her feel better, please? Sure. 𝐴𝐿𝐴 said, giving May a big hug. I'm not scared anymore, I promise, May. May hugged the girl tight with one arm and hugged Izuku with the other. Several people were impressed with how he had got her to settle down after 7 people couldn't stop her from almost preforming a massacre on 𝐒𝐿𝐴. Ryukyu was impressed with the May as to how strong she was to keep moving through after all of those people tried to stop her. If I didn't know any better, I think May has a secret she is not tell us about. She thought to herself. It could be her natural strength, but that was a problem for another day. I think we should have let her break his legs. Miruko commented from behind her. I mean, I wouldn't have let her do too much damage. She wanted to punish that bastard for trying to harm her brother, but with All Might there as security, she was not able to try anything. Ryukyu elbowed her in the ribs and shot her a look. What? Miruko asked, rubbing her ribs. I was just thinking out loud. Ryukyu sighed at her antics. I understand the feeling, but that could have caused May to get expelled, arrested, or both for assaulting him. She silently agreed with her sister, but passion overruled May's reasoning in her attempt to punish 𝐒𝐿𝐴. After she had completely calmed down, stood up and bowed her head to everyone in the room. I am so sorry about what happened and for causing problems with your class. She looked at Nizu. I am sorry, sir, for my conduct. I will accept any punishment you deem fit, sir. May was ashamed of herself for losing control like that. She just hoped she didn't lose anyone as a possible client for her business for the way she had acted just now. Nizu smiled at her. We can all agree that the fight got everyone a bit emotions. Seems like it affected some of us more than others. I will let you off with a very stern warning since no one was actually injured in your attempt, and if you do anything like that again, I have to give you a formal punishment, Miss Hatsum. Understand? Nizu was surprised to see that May was the one to try and injure 𝐒𝐿𝐴. He figured there was something else behind her motivation since she was usually very easygoing and kind. Yes, sir. May replied quietly. May I stay and watch the remaining matches, sir? May didn't want to be alone at the moment and wanted to stay close to her boyfriend and her friends for emotional support. Nizu seemed to think for a moment. As long as you can control yourself, I will allow you to say 𝐻𝗓𝗧𝗟𝗓. I understand and thank you, sir. Mei replied, still with a quiet tone. Izuku guided her over to where his girlfriends were sitting. Everyone adjusted their seating to allow her to sit on his left and Ochako on his right. 𝗏𝗡𝗡𝗅 was happy sitting on his lap for the moment but waved at Setsuna, who gave her a wink. Ochako leaned over and whispered, "Just a heads up. 𝗏𝗡𝗡𝗅 got overexcited to see your new ranger forms and called you Papa by accident." Ochako so badly wanted to kiss him, but had enough restraint to wait until they were alone. She had to admit watching him fight like that had made her feel a bit hot and bothered. Izuku looked down and kissed the 𝗏𝗡𝗡𝗅 on the head. It's okay, it was bound to happen. Izuku felt like he was forgetting something important. Right up until he heard the twin squeals off to the side. He looked to see Mina and Toru standing looking at the Izuku and 𝗏𝗡𝗡𝗅. Oh hell. Oh, is this cutie 𝗏𝗡𝗡𝗅? Mina said, bouncing with energy. Oh my god, she is so adorable. Toru said, matching Mina's excited energy. Izuku felt 𝗏𝗡𝗡𝗅 get a bit shy. Don't rush her please, but yes, this is her. Can you wave at them? Izuku watched as she gave them a shy wave which made them squeal with delight. Izuku, thank you for doing that. He felt her tail start to swish with happiness at his praise. He started to pet her head, which caused her to start purring. Before Mina or Toru could say anything more, Inko came and tapped Mina on her uninjured shoulder. Hello ladies, as much as you are enjoying your time with that sweet little bundle of joy. My name is Nurse Midoriya and I need to take a look at your shoulder, Miss Ishido, and I want to check you for injury as well, Miss Hagakure. Inko led them out of the room. As they left the room, they could hear Mina trying to ask him questions. Wait, Midoriya. Are you related to Izuku? Mina asked. Is 𝗏𝗡𝗡𝗅 his sister then? Toru was asking similar question as she followed behind Inko. Kirishima, Kaminari, 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘, and Shinso moved over to talk with him as the teachers were working out what they needed to do to keep the class going for the afternoon. That was super manly how you took down Bakugo using your scarf, Mido bro. Kirishima flexed as he in awe of how he fought and was able to protect his best friend. I really owe you for taking care of Mina, man. I have known her since we were 5 years old. Kirishima had been worried about her when Bakugo raised that massive gauntlet of his and realized Mina was in the line of fire. He wanted a few minutes with Bakugo after what he almost did in his temper tantrum. Oh, it was nothing really. I mean, she was my teammate and my friends. I wouldn't have let her get hurt if I could help it. Izuku was feeling a bit embarrassed at the praise he was getting. Even after all this time, he was still embarrassed by it. I disagree there, Midoriya. It was rather impressive how you fought and used his aggression against him. 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 said as he was nodding in approval of him. I learned a lot from watching you fight. If it is not too much trouble, I would like to train with you and see if you can help me improve. Dark shoulder appeared from underneath his cape and nodded along with him, giving Izuku a thumbs up before disappearing back into the cape. We heard what you said to Bakugo during your fight, Midoriya. Shinso said to him. He watched him tense up at this. I just have to say I agree with Kirishima and 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 that you are quite impressive and I want to train with you as well. Oh. Izuku was not sure how he felt about that. For the longest time that was a private issue between the two of them. He eventually shared with his family and mentor. He eventually shared it with his now girlfriends, but that was because he had trusted them with his life that he wanted them to know. He was not sure he was ready for both classes to know about, but the cat was out of the bag now. I didn't know you all could hear what I said. Don't worry about it, Midoriya. I understand not wanting to talk about it. I was bullied for a long time with my quirk. People called me a villain all the time. Shinso said to him with a kind smile. I only know of one other person that treated me with kindness besides you when they learned of what I could do. Dude, you are serious, a nice guy that basically beat the breeds of his bully and knocked him down a few pegs. Kaminari gave him a wicked grin. I wish I could have done the same when I was younger to some of my bullies as well, but we are your friends, man. Kaminari gave him a thumbs up as the other three nodded in agreement. Thank you guys. Izuku said in a small voice and bowed his head towards them. He felt his daughter hug him tightly. He graciously returned to hug. Midnight cleared her throat as she and 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 stood in front of both class to their attention. With All Might and Mr. Izuku busy right now, 𝐻𝐿ady and I will be taking over for the remainder of this class. She gestures to the screen to get the class back on track. I will let Mr. Izuku go over the match results in greater detail tomorrow in your homeroom class with you all. I would like to start the next match. Midnight tells the class as she draws the next pairings. Next up is Team B versus Team I. Shoto Todoroki and 𝐻𝐿𝐴 Shoji heroes versus Masareyo Ojiro and Mineta Minoru villains. Alright villain team, you have 15 minutes to set up your building and prepare to repel the hero team to the best of your abilities. Midnight called out to both teams. Mineta complained loudly about not being paired with any of the hot girls in the class for his teammate, which led to him be hit with a rock from someone in the room. No one knew who threw it or admitted to throwing it. The villain team set up a few minor traps waiting near the bomb, waiting for the match to start. I don't think this match is going to be very interesting, Momo stated as they watched their villain team finish their preparations. They only made minimal traps and both of their opponents have very power quirks at their disposal. Izuku hummed as looked over the match. I think you are right, Momo. Izuku agreed with her. Ojiro is close combat fighter and Minoru is a mid-ranger fighter as best. While Shoji is also a CQC fighter, his quirk allows him to be flexible, and I agree the Todoroki is a powerhouse and a close and long-range fighter. Kyoko smiled at this. Well, let's see how this plays out the way you two nerds think it will. She got the reaction she wanted when she teased them and they blushed a bit, realizing they got lost in their analysis. Be nice, Kyoko, Ochako said to her best friend with a wink. Wouldn't want them to get too flustered before the match even starts. She started giggling at their looks of betrayal they sent towards her. Heroes team, you may begin. Midnight called out to the team over the radio, allowing the screen to split to show both teams. Stay still, I don't want you to get caught up in this, Todoroki said in a monotone voice over the speaker, before he raised his foot and slammed it down, freezing the whole building solid and freezing the villain team in place. The viewing room looked at this in awe of how powerful he was for being able to do that with so little exertion from him. Wow, that was a cold finish, 𝐿𝐿ady joked and received a deadpan look from Midnight. What? It was just so perfect I couldn't pass it up. Miruko and Ryukyu both were booing at her poor attempt at a joke. 𝐿𝐿ady shot them a dirty look since she could not flip them off in front of her students. Hero team win. I feel bad for Ojiro for not getting a chance to show off his skills, but I was wondering if we could just leave that great pervert frozen for rest of the day. Setsuna asked and got a murmuring of agreements from the female students and guests in the room with his recent inappropriate comments. The rest of the class also agreed on how unfair it was for Ojiro not being able to show off his skills was a little disappointing. We cannot miss 𝐻𝐿𝐴, but rest assured his behavior will be corrected by the teachers before the end of school today. Nizu replied they got a general agreement from both classrooms. They were all sad to see said great pervert be thawed out by Todoroki. This is only the first class. I am sure there will be many more chance for him to get a chance to show his abilities. Well, Todoroki was a recommended student for a reason, Momo stated in a matter-of-fact tone. She watched his impressive display of power at their exams and knew he would be one of the school's top students. Isn't he the son of the number 2 hero Endeavor? Asked at 1B student. Several more students joined in on that discussion. All right, time for the next groups to draw on for the next match. 𝐿𝐿ady called out to them as she drew lots. Team C versus Team J. Momo Yaoyorozu and Ochako Uraraka heroes versus Ijiro Kirishima and Hanta-Siro villains. Momo and Ochako headed to their waiting area to plan as Kirishima and Siro were setting up their base for the round. Izuku had been watching the prep work for both teams when he saw Mina and Toru moved over to take their empty seats near him. Toru had gotten dressed into a tracksuit and Mina had on a gym shirt on. Hey Izuku, so I heard from your mom that Raphtalia is your daughter you basically adopted and the adorable story behind her calling you Papa. Mina said with a grin he had seen on his sister's faces before. Mina had handed him back his jacket he had lent her. He draped it over the arm of his chair. Oh, she did? Izuku asked as she looked back to see his mother trying to look completely innocent, but was unable to have a small smirk on her face. Well, I would do anything to make her happy and I do consider her to be my daughter. Izuku was not ashamed of that fact one bit. Mina cooed at his words and looked at the adorable girl. "Hello there, my name is Mina." She held her arms open. "Can I please hug you?" Mina asked her, gesturing with her hands to come to her. "Pretty please." Mina pouted slightly as she loved being around small children, and she looked after her own younger siblings all the time. 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 looked at Izuku for permission, and when he nodded, yes, she slid over and gave Mina a hug. She liked how Mina started to fuss over her like her other mama did. She got a lot of praise for being cute as a button. She looked over to Mama Setsuna, and when their eyes met, 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 gave her a mischievous smile, and that made Mama Setsuna smile with pride. "Wow, Miss Mina, you are so pretty," 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 exclaimed as she looked up to Mina, her tail wagging in excitement. "Maybe someday I hope can be as pretty as you." 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 gave her a big smile as Mina got even more excited and hugged her tightly. "OMG, you are so adorable, I want to hug you all day," Mina said as she smiled brightly as the girl. "Hey, no fair, Mina, you need to share this cutie," Toru whined as reaching over and petting her head. Both girl had to suppress a loud squeal as she was purring with delight. They began to give her more attention as they got her to giggle. "Well, she has charmed them with her cuteness," 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 said with a smile on her face. It was nice to see her come out of her shell even more. At this rate, there is not going to anyone who is not enchanted by her. 𝐀𝐾𝐭 could not blame them, as it was not hard to see that adorable girl as a precious gem. If there was another adorable girl like her out there, it would be a very dangerous combination to put them together. In a small white, another small girl with pure white hair, a small horn sneezed in her room. She had been watching the news as a discussion, a green-haired boy saving the day with a team. "Maybe someday he can rescue me too," she thought to herself. She curled up into a ball, praying for an angel to save her. Back in the viewing room, 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 had been enjoying her attention when she decided it was time to have a bit of fun. "Oh, Miss Mina." She made her voice a bit shy. "Yes, cutie," Mina answered as she had yet to stop smiling at the little girl sitting on her lap. 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 had pretended to be nervous to Mina. "Well, since you are so pretty and nice to me, would date my papa so I can have a mama as pretty as you." She still pretended to be innocent as she looked at Setsuna, who was laughing into her hand. 𝐾𝐿 and Mei stiffened at her words to Mina. The rest of the room suddenly went quiet after hearing what the small girl had asked. Mineta started muttering about him being a lucky BSD, until he shut up from several stern looks were sent his direction. "You are such a bad influence, Setsuna," 𝐾𝐿 muttered, looking at the chaos that 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 had just caused. Setsuna just snickered back. "What? Me a bad influence?" Setsuna gave her a faux hurt expression. "I think I should feel insulted." Izuku flushed a dark red. 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟. He whispered towards her before looking at Mina to apologize. "Mina, I'm so sorry about that." Izuku was not sure what 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 was planning, but when he glanced over at Setsuna suppressing her laughter, he knew his lovely daughter had decided to be mischievous. "I am so, Mina?" Izuku asked. Mina was sitting stone stiff, her face blushing a dark purple. She was not sure how to answer the young girl without hurting her feelings. She was panicking on the inside as she was impressed with Izuku, as he was cute and had been chivalrous during their fight. When her hero suit has damage enough to expose her body, that he given her his jacket without a moment's hesitation, and he didn't take advantage of the situation to look. Mina attempted to talk, but was unable to find the words to form a cohesive sentence. Toru had been fanning her friend to prevent her from overheating. Wow, that question really shorted Mina out. Toru thought, wondering the same thing, but lucky for her they could see her blush. "Oh look, they are about to get this match started." Setsuna called out and gestured for 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 to come over to her. The little girl hopped down from Mina's lap and dashed quickly over to sit on Setsuna's lap. Setsuna whispered something into the young girl's ear and snickered. 𝐾𝐿, who had heard what she said, elbowed her before rolling her eyes. Saved by the bell. Mina thought to herself as she was still blushing heavily. She looked to see Izuku was still blushing as well. It looks like he was interested in that idea as well. She thought to herself. She felt like she had butterflies in her stomach. She hoped by the time the match is over she would be back to normal. On the exam floor, Momo and Ochako had already finished making their plans. 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 had removed Momo's gravity and tossed her upwards to the roof. After Momo had reached the roof, 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 returned her partner's gravity to her, allowing her to gently land on the roof. Momo in return created a pulley system and pulled 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 up to the roof, allowing them to void the bottom floors of any traps. After both of them had gotten into position, Momo picked the lock on the roof door and created a small drone to scout ahead for them. After sweeping the stairwell, they found they had only their opponents blocked the stairs up to the top floor. It wasn't long before they had tracked them down to a corner room. "I found them," Momo said, gesturing to the screen in her hands. She watched as 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 looked over it. "They are in the last room here, and from what I can see they didn't set up any traps on the upper floor here." Momo had adjusted the camera to look around and after finishing her second sweep nodded in her confirmation. "Okay, so we know where they are, and now we also have the element of surprise on our side," 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 said with a grin. "Now time for the next step, huh?" Cracked her knuckles, taking on a more feral grin as she looked at her partner. "Are you ready?" Momo smiled back at her just as fierce. "Yes, let's go, 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫." Momo created a few items and headed down the stairs to win their match. The rest of the class would describe what happened to the villain team as a massacre. Kirishima and 𝐶𝐶 were overconfident that they had plenty of time to relax until one or both of the hero team got to them, so they were more just than a little surprised when Momo kicked the door open and tossed in several Matryoshka dolls into the room before ducking back out of the doorway. A moment later they detonated into a series of flashbangs that blinded and deafened both of them in an instant. They attempted to fight back, but 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 rushed in and grabbed Kirishima's arm, which caused him to activate his quirk on a reflex before taking away his gravity and throwing him into 𝐶𝐶, who felt someone bump him and covered him in his tape before falling back as his now bound partner fell on top of him. When it was all said and done, both of them were out of the match. Momo and 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 walked over and touched the device. "Hero team win." "Wow, that was pretty impressive," Izuku said as they match came to an end. They used their unique abilities to get onto the top of the building, bypassing all of the traps they set and ambushed them when they thought they were safe. Izuku made sure to remember to stay alert during their training tomorrow. "Yes, I must agree with Izuku. They did an amazing job," 𝐒𝐵A said, agreeing with her classmate. She had to resist the urge to yell at Monoma, who had just scoffed at their praise of the 1A students. "That is correct, students. You need to stay on guard until the match is called, or you may end up like these two, losing their match," Midnight said, lecturing the students on remaining vigilant. Several of the classmates nodded along with her comment. She had been keeping an eye on Monoma since his attitude was similar to Bakugo. "Wow, I have to say Momo and 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 are quite the formidable team," May said as she leaned back into her seat. "I have a few new babies to improve their suits." May had gotten out a small notebook, sketched out some new equipment to help in the field. She was oblivious to the look students were giving her. You lot May calls all her inventions babies. So settle down already," Kyoka told all of them as they were starting to get on her nerves. They kept talking a bit with their muttering, and it was starting to get on her nerves. She felt a little protective of May after seeing how upset she was with how the fight with Bakugo and Izuku went down. "I can't really blame her. I wanted to do the same thing, but I was afraid of getting expelled," she thought, remembering her heart clench in fear as she watched the gauntlet get raised up. She shook her head to clear her mind. "Yeah, I know Momo can be scary when she comes up with a plan. I remember when we were training for our exams, she would practice all sort of scenarios and change as it went on to test her ability to create on the go." Setsuna remember watching as her friend made incredible things, and when it was over had it all donated to charities or to a local orphanage that was in need. Setsuna looked down to see 𝐿𝐼𝐼𝐴 looking in awe of 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and Momo winning their match. "Pretty cool, huh?" 𝐿𝐼𝐼𝐴 nodded her head quickly. "Yeah, Oka and Imo are so cool," the girl exclaimed at watched them take down those silly boys that went against them. The more she watched, the more wanted to be like her papa and mamas. She waited for them to walk back inside the door and rushed them as soon as they did. "That was so cool," she exclaimed as she bounced back and forth in front of them. 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 picked her up and hugged her before letting her float in the air from her quirk for a moment before returning her gravity to catching her. Momo laughed as she petted the girl behind the ear, causing 𝐿𝐼𝐴 to wag her wildly. "Thanks for cheering us on, 𝐿𝐼𝐴." 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 smiled at her. She put her on her hip and walked back towards the others. She noticed 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 taking a picture of her and waved at her. Mina got up from her spot and moved over to an empty seat near Toru and Kirishima. You and Momo did an amazing job during your battle. Well done. Izuku said, give her a smile. She was excited to see you guys show those villains who is in charge. His tone took on a teasing tone to 𝗏𝗡𝗡lia, who pouted at him before burying her face into Ochako's side to hide. Thank you, Izuku. Ochako replied, sending him a wink. She hugged 𝗏𝗡𝗡lia tight and whispered in her ear. Thanks, 𝗏𝗡𝗡lia. Yes, thank you, Izuku. Momo said, giving him a gentle smile. She had enjoyed the thrill of training. She made a note to find time to experiment with her quirk on its limits. All right, everyone, time once again for the next groups to draw on for the next matches. MT Lady called out to the room. Second to last match of the day will be Team G versus Team H. Denki Kaminari and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 heroes versus 𝐶𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 Tokoyami and 𝐶𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴zui villains. As the villain team, less to get set up, 𝐾𝐿KA took a deep breath before standing up, head over to meet her partner for the event when she felt someone tap her leg. She looked down to see 𝗏𝗡𝗡𝗡lia had gotten off Ochako and came over to her. What up, kiddo? She knelt down to look her in the eye. I wanted to wish you luck, Kyo. 𝗏𝗡𝗡𝗡lia said in a quiet voice. Can I give you a hug? She reached her arms out, waiting for her to move. 𝐾𝐿KA smiled at her. Sure thing. 𝐾𝐿KA moved in and gave her a big hug, letting her ear jacks to ruffle her hair. Now going wait with the others so you can cheer me on, okay? 𝐾𝐿KA watched the girl smile brightly and dashed back to the group, returning to Ochako lap for the match. She sent the girl a wink before heading out to the waiting area. Izuku took out his notebook and began to write down everything he had seen so far. He fell into his old practice of muttering and filling out the pages without really paying attention. As he analyzed the match that was about to start, he was so far into his muttering analysis that it was not until he felt someone tap his shoulder that he snapped out of it to see everyone looking at him in shock. Oh, I did it again, huh? Izuku asked as he saw that Momo had been the one to tap his shoulder. Sorry, everyone. He sank down a little in his seat, embarrassed. Izuku, it's okay, I am sure everyone is just not used to you going into full-blown analysis mode. Momo said, trying to comfort him a little, as he was just doing analysis on his classmates like he was supposed to help them all improve. Hey Mido bro, after this is over can you analyze my quirk? I want to know what I can improve on after that disaster of a first match. Kirishima said in a sad tone. He had been so sure he would win that it was hard to think about his loss. Oh, mine too, Izuku. Mina called out she wanted his help to improve her costume to prevent another possible wardrobe malfunction. Oh hey, I want help too, and Izuku promised to help me meet someone from the support class. Toru called out. She was not going to keep walking around in the ND anymore if she could help it. Mei turned her head in Toru's direction and walked over to stand in front of her with a business card in her hand. Hello, Mei 𝗏𝗡𝗡, the future CEO of 𝗏𝗡𝗡 Industries. Mei handed her the card. I am the one who designed Zuzu costume and built his visor along with Ochako, 𝐾𝐿KA, and Momo's. She stood tall with pride. How can I be of service to you? Izuku smiled at her, working to expand her client base a bit more with new people. Toru, this was who I was going to introduce you to help you with the suit and equipment needs. You can trust her. Izuku watched as Mei asked to switch seats with Mina to talk in depth with Toru about her needs for her hero suit. This meant Mina moved to sit next to Izuku again. Mina teased him about his nickname. Izuku laughed nervously. I have known Mei for almost a year and she has been calling me that since we became friends. Izuku thought back to how lonely he was back before he met everyone, getting a sad smile on his face. She was my first friend in over 10 years since I was told I dash. He couldn't find his sentence. He was not sure how to feel right at that moment. Before he could react, he was pulled face first into Mina's chest as she was petting his head. Oh, I am so sorry Bakugo made you go through that, Izuku. She rubbed her cheek against the top of his head as struggled to get free. Being mean to you is like being mean to a cute bunny, it is inexcusable. After her small freeze-up earlier, she decided that she was going to tease him a bit until he blushed. She was so oblivious to the world that she was receiving a glare from Mei, Momo, Setsuna, and Ochako. Eventually Mina felt someone tap the top of her head. She looked to see a floating severed hand in the air. "Oh Pinky, mind not suffocating our friends there in your melons?" Setsuna asked, trying to restrain the urge to slap her. She recalled her hand back to reconnect it before flexing her hand. "If anyone is going to shove 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴's face into their chest, it's gonna be me," she thought to herself, almost wanting to yank him up from Mina and claim him. "Alright." She released Izuku, who was blushing red. Sorry, got carried away, Izuku. She gave him a teasing smile as she had achieved her goal. They got comfortable in her seat and cuddled up on his arm. "Oh look, they're about to start." She made sure no one could make her move for a bit. "This is my way to thank him for being a nice guy and saving me and Toru from Bakugo," she thought, happily thinking about what his daughter words. "Well, since you are so pretty and nice to me, would date my papa so I can have a mama as pretty as you." She tried not to flush at those words. "Hero team, you may begin your operations," MT Lady called out to the teams over the speakers. As she clicked the screen to show both teams, Kyoko walked over to the building and inserted one of her jacks into the building, cracking the concrete exterior, and started to listen in on them. She focused her hearing to listen for the footsteps on their opponents. After a few more moments of listening, she had a rough location of both of them. "Okay, sounds like one of them is on the 3rd floor patrolling and one is on the 4th floor in one of the rooms. When we get inside, I may be able to track them better." She looked over at her partner that was a bit impressed. "That is pretty handy there," Kaminari said, giving her a thumbs up. "I say we move in and let you check each floor to see if you can hear them." He headed to the front entrance and started to move carefully inside the building. The next several minutes were the most stressful of their lives. The building was eerily silent. Several of the lights were smashed, leaving many corners and hallways dark. Every so often Kyoko would insert her jack into the wall and listen for any footsteps. Eventually Kyoko realized they were purposing moving around to confuse them. "They keep moving around. They must know how I am tracking them," Kyoko said, having her jack sweeping back and forth and activating her visor to scan for anyone. "We need to change it up." Kaminari frowned at this. "You're right, look, let's sweep each floor and move up. We need to find the bomb, and we know both of them may be together guarding it like the other classes." He gave her a cocky grin. The sound of lights shattering caught their attention as 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴 started to walk towards them. "I see, I found the trespassers in my domain." He had a serious tone in his voice. "Surrender and you may get to walk away, heroes." He flipped a part of his cape up to reveal a gray men's kimono shirt and a white hakama briefs. On his belt was a black katana and his hand resting on it. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴, Kaminari said as he was readied his attacks by charging electricity between his hands. "Jiru, search the next floor, I'll handle him." He sent a wave of electricity toward 𝐒𝐮𝐴, but Dark Shadow pulled him to safety away from the attack and disappeared into a dark room. He said before rushing after his opponent. "Kaminari, wait." Kyoko called out, but was ignored as her partner entered the room. Sounds of fighting filled the room. She ran up the next flight, listening to the fight below. Before she reached the next floor, a voice called out over the speakers. Kaminari had been eliminated from the exercise. "Demon," Kyoko muttered as she was listening for Azui could be hiding with the bomb. She carefully swept the rooms and have her visor on scan mode. She heard something coming from behind her, so Kyoko rolled out of the way and came up to find Azui sticking to the wall like the frog she was looking at her. "You almost had me, Azui," Kyoko said, reading her jacks to attack. "Just call me 𝐶𝐶. Tsu said to her as she jumped forward, aiming a power kick to Kyoka's chest. But Kyoko was nimble enough to evade her attack and tried to grab her legs with her ear jacks. Tsu showed her flexibility as she moved out of the way by bending herself in an almost unnatural way and landed on the other wall to jump back towards her. The next several minutes was basic, the two of them dodge each other. When Tsu tried to use her tongue to capture Kyoko, who would in turn use her jacks to knock it off course. As Kyoko was dodging another attack from Tsu, she felt something grab her from the side. She turned her head to see a large shadowy hand wrapping around her, pinning her arms to her side. "I forgot about your partner Tsu," Kyoko said, knowing it was 2 against 1 in their favor. She struggled to get free, but realized they had won fair and square. "I guess you guys win." Her tone was sad at losing her first match. Villain's team wins. They put up a good fight, but after Kaminari went off on his own to handle 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽𝐽, they lost the advantage and the match. Kirishima said after watching the match to come to an end. Jiraiya put up one heck of a fight against Azui. Both of them are really good. Kirishima was getting amped up. Also, now I want to spar against 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽𝐽. This had turned out to be an exciting matchup as the second ended in one large attack from Todoroki and third matches had ended rather quickly when Momo and Ochako had ambushed and took down both of their opponents without much of a fight. They did a great job. Ryukyu commented on the match. I think I may send an internship request to the 𝐶𝐮𝐬𝐽 girl. She might be able to keep up with 𝐵𝐺𝐼R in training. She had not come today expecting to find anyone would catch her eye. The girl was quick and agile in her movements. I'm thinking about sending one to Ochako. She did great job today, but her CQC needs some improvement. Maruko had been impressed with her during the villain fight and after watching her fight today wanted to stake her claim. She had never thought she would want an intern, but after being around Izuku this past year she wanted to pass on her skills on to someone. And her choice was Ochako. She did a great job. Izuku said he felt bad that she had lost the match, but she showed that she was made of sterner stuff in her fight against Azui. Raphtalia, when she comes back in here, can you give her a hug please? Izuku knew he could not hug in front of everyone without there being a large reaction from it. So he would have the next best thing to hug her. Okay, Papa. Raphtalia replied as started to watch the door waiting for her to enter. As soon as Kyoka walked in the door she sprang forward and latched onto Kyoka's legs. Kyo needs a hug, she chirped happily. Most of the people in the room thought it was very adorable of the young girl to run up and hug Kyoka. Kyoko squatted down and picked the girl up, holding her close to her. Thank you, I really needed that, kiddo. Kyoka's smile returned as Raphtalia beamed at her. Now want to come cuddle with me for a bit? She hadn't wanted to sit alone after her loss. Sure. Raphtalia replied with a smile. She latched onto Kyoka as she returned to her seat, hold the girl on her lap. She wondered if they could get her to sit in class with them as their emotional support to Nuki. All right everyone, it is time for the last pair of groups to draw on for the next matches. Midnight called out. Team A versus Team F. Yuga Aoyama and Melissa, Shield Heroes versus Hitoshi Shinso and Koji Koda, villains. The last matchup of the day had everyone focusing on the screen. The villains had gotten their chance to set up as they waited and waited for the match to start. Needless to say, this match was weird. From the very beginning. From what they could tell, Aoyama spent more time talking about his cape than actually trying to plan for the match with his partner. When the match started he ran off, leaving Melissa behind. Wait! Melissa called out before running behind him. Melissa swore to herself as she flicked her wrist and her shield and spear expanded to their normal sizes. She had been listening for her partner and had turned the corner in time to see Shinso say something to her partner and watched as he stood still long enough for Shinso to wrap the capture ribbon around his arm. Yuga Aoyama has been eliminated. Melissa shifted her spear to her opposite hand and drew his fist back. She channeled her quirk, Golden Fleece, as yellow electricity arced around her as regulated the power. 5% Athens Smash. She sent a damaging attack towards her opponent. Shinso saw the massive attack coming towards him and dived out of the way, barely evading her attack as it tore up the hallway. Drat, I missed. Melissa said though her helmet. She readied her spear as she watched Shinso make a run for the stairs. She arm arced with lightning again as she threw her spear. Athena's spear. She looked at her HUD and threw it on a perfect curve. It missed him on purpose, slamming in the wall in front of his as he went to turn, getting close, lined by her spear. Melissa dashed towards him using one for all. Hitoshi coughed as he rolled to his side. Why do I have to fight her instead of anyone else? He had been able to dodge her initial attack thanks to his training, but he was in no shape to take her head on. He rolled onto his feet and made a break for the stairs. He made it to the stairwell when he felt another attack just miss him. He moved just inside the door and waited for her to rush in. Melissa was cautiously moving towards the stairwell. She had not seen him go up yet. She suspected that he was waiting for her to enter. Gran Torino would do something similar to her during her training. She calculated the best spot for him to try and ambush her. She charged up again and punched towards the wall, 2% Athens smash. She sent her attack towards the wall and blasted through it. Hitoshi dove for the ground when he heard her call out another attack. The wall he was just standing next to exploded out, creating a person-sized hole. He watched her step through and move towards him. He sent his capture scarf at her leg to trip her up. Her response was to slam in her shield into the ground almost 3 inches, pinning his scarf to the ground. Oh, this is bad, Hitoshi thought as he removed his scarf and tried to think of his next move. He hated to do it, but he needed her to react to him for his quirk to take effect. I know your last name is Shield. Tell me, how much did Daddy have paid to let you come and play hero? He hated to do that, but she had been silent the entire time. What? Daddy's girl can't speak for herself without his permission. Melissa immediately tensed and clicked a button to release her shield from her arm and stood to her full height. She had worked hard for months to prepare her for this school. Hours of training, studying, exercise to reach this point. She cracked her neck from side and then cracked her knuckles. Big mistake, Melissa said through her speaker. Please stand still until I can tie this capture tape around your wrists, Hitoshi said, thinking his quirk had taken effect and ended the match. Melissa's body became electrified again. Not going to happen, JRK. She replied, taking a step towards him. She charged up to 5% and was ready to deal out some punishment. She dropped into her boxing stance. Oh, Hitoshi said before he started to take a step back. Any chance at some mercy if I apologize? He knew it was a gamble to upsetting her, and he lost big time. She could punch holes in concrete, and now she had a target for her anger. All out, Melissa replied shortly, sending another punch toward him. When Hitoshi dodged her again, she changed it up and charged up a kick, 5% Spartan kick. She watched as another hole formed in the wall. Back in the viewing room, the room felt like Hitoshi had just royally screwed up. Izuku had flinched at his choice of words towards Melissa and her father. I hope she is not too rough on him, Izuku said, watching him dodge a blow that exploded the wall behind him. I almost feel kind of bad for him. Well, going after someone's parent and telling her she got here because of their money was in bad taste. I hope he survives, Setsuna said as he was forced to dodge another of Melissa's attacks that blew another hole in the wall. I hope that building can take the abuse she is dishing out right now, Ochako said as another hole had exploded out from her attacks. I think that building will start to get a bit unstable soon. Ochako had listened to her parents talk about building stability most of her life. She knew that enough damage and the building would not be safe for them. Midnight had been watching the building, and it was already in rough shape from the previous matches. She hated to do so, but it was becoming a possible safety hazard for the students. She reached over and turned on the speaker. The match is a draw. Due to the building becoming a safety concern for the participants, this match is cancelled as this time. All students report back to the viewing room. Melissa stopped mid-swing like she had been trained to do by Gran Torino. She relaxed her fighting stance and went to get her shield and spear. She didn't look back to see the look of relief on her opponent's face as she walked away. She was upset at herself for letting his meaningless insults get her so upset like that and cause her lash out in anger. She needed to go clear her head a bit before trying to talk with him. She would go talk with her uncle, and maybe that would make her feel better. Hitoshi slid down to sit on the floor as relief flooded his body. He was sure she was still furious at him for what he said. He would let her cool off before going anywhere near her to apologize. He looked at the holes in the surrounding walls and decided to maybe ask someone to come with him, like Izuku, to help prevent a possible trip to the hospital. Oh God, women are scary when they are angry, he said, thanking every god that he knew that the match was stopped. He just knew his girlfriend was going to find this whole situation absolutely hilarious and definitely would want to meet her. Well, I have to say, all of these matches were pretty good for your first heroics class. Now Class 1A, hit the showers and get your suits turned into the support department to be clean for the next class. Class 1B, you lot will be here tomorrow for your battle training, so be prepared for that, Midnight informed them as she dismissed that class. Depending on how things go tomorrow, 1A may be sitting in to watch like 1B did today. I agree with Miss Midnight, you all did very well today and know that we expect great things from all of you. Nizu said, standing up and heading to the door to take care of the problem student known as 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. As he left the room his phone rang and Nizu frowned when he saw it was from the chairman. Izuku waved to his family as he headed to the locker room. Inko held Raphtalia's hand as they headed back to the nurse's office. His sisters had to head out as well to get back on patrol and gave him a quick hug before heading out to their agencies. The girls broke off and headed to the girls' locker room as Mei gave him a quick hug and headed back to her workstation. As he headed for the locker room he was met up with 𝗀𝐿, Kaminari, 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and Kirishima and got to chat with them about the different matches and what they wanted to train with him later on. They reached the locker room still chatting and to stop to get showered and changed. Izuku had just got out of the shower, was getting dressed in front of his locker when he had the unfortunate luck to be near Minata's locker out of everyone else in the class. Izuku had heard of his comments when sitting in the room and was not impressed with him. Midoriya, you know most of those hot chicks that were sitting next to you, right? So I was wondering if you can help a fellow classmate out with getting their numbers for me. Mineta gave a depraved smile. Geez, Mineta, you really need to back that off on that stuff or else you're going to get massacred by the female population in general. Kaminari said with an annoyed tone. He had known Mineta for years since their parents were friends and business acquaintances. He had watched as Mineta harassed every girl he found pretty and it forced his parents to spend money to keep him from getting expelled from school. No. Izuku replied stiffly. Izuku finished getting dressed and was putting his suit back into his case to take it back to Mei. Izuku had pretty much tuned his out after tell him no. Izuku had to count down a few times to not slug him in the face. That is unmanly, Minoru. Kirishima called out as he was getting dressed. He was sending him an annoyed look his way, especially after the comment he made when Mina Top got destroyed in her fight. You need to knock off that perverted stuff. Come on guys, what about the bro code? Mineta tried again to get Izuku hook him up with a hot girl and to get them on his side. Izuku gave a cold look that made Mineta take a step back. I said no. I am not your friends, amigo, and bro, whatever you want to call me. I would not help you if you were the last person in the world. Izuku grabbed his case and walked out of the locker room before he had to deal with Mineta anymore. Hey Minoru. Hitoshi called out to him. Yeah dash. Mineta answered before his eyes glazed over. Shut up and get dressed. Hitoshi said as he was about finished getting dressed. He hoped his girlfriend never met him or else he may not survive the encounter if he acted like his usual self. He was pretty sure she would drop him with one stab from her knife. Mineta followed Hitoshi's orders and didn't make a peep as he got dressed and left the locker room. His mood brightened immediately when he saw Kyoko waiting for him outside the girls' locker room. Izuku gestured towards the support hall whispering Mineta's name before gesturing to the boys' locker room. Kyoko grabbed her case and walked in that direction and Izuku followed behind. After walked for a few minutes he asked, "Is the little pervert following us?" Izuku asked, wanting to make sure that he was alone with her. Nope, just us. Kyoko said, lowering her ear jack slightly. I appreciate you telling that pervert off. She gestured to her jacks. I have to say, if he doesn't knock it off quick, I don't think he will live to see the end of the month. Izuku nodded in agreement, not wanting to think any more about the prick's disgusting look on his face talking about females from both classes. I may do it for them if he keeps it up. Izuku muttered in annoyance at the perverted grape. She moved closer to him, brushing against his shoulder before pulling him to an empty classroom that was nearby. After closing the door and setting her case on the floor, she spun around, grabbing his face and pulled him into a passionate kiss. Izuku set his case down without breaking the kiss before putting his hand on her hips, pulling her closer. After having short, intense makeout session had forced him to break the kiss to catch his breath. Well, not that I am complaining, but what brought this on appealing? He watched her blush at being called appealing. Kyoko smirked at him. What can I say, you looked really hot when you put that blonde BSD in his place, and I may have been a bit scared earlier. She resumed their kissing for a while, and when they broke apart they decided to make sure to get their gear back before they were missed by anyone. After making sure the hallway was clear, they resumed walking toward the support hallway. Izuku spoke again. Hey Kyoko. Do you have any plans for Sunday? He asked, a bit nervous regardless of the face. She was his girlfriend now. No plans that I can think of. Are you asking me out on a date? Kyoka asked, giving him a teasing smile. Her heart was beating fast at thought of him asking her for an actual date first. Izuku smiled back at her. Well, sort of. I have an event on Sunday with Rumi and Deep Dope will be there, and I promised to tell you when they gave me more passes. Izuku watched her eyes light up with excitement. I take it that you want them. Kyoko jumped with excitement. Oh hell yes. Izuku, you are awesome. She exclaimed a bit louder than she had intended, but that was her favorite band of all time he was talking about. When? It starts at 10 a.m. and runs until 1 p.m. I have to be there a bit early to help with the setup, but afterwards I am free for the afternoon for you to choose where we go. Izuku explained as he was happy to have her going to be there for him. He wanted to make the afternoon special for her since it would be his first official date with her. Awesome, I will have my mom drop me off early so we can ride over there together. Kyoka's smile was bright at getting to spend time with him and getting to see her favorite band as the best possible day ever. Before I forget, you need to make some time to see the other girls, they were really worried about you. Kyoka was a bit selfish at times, but she knew how to share. I will, thank you, Izuku said as they rounded the corner to the support lab. Kyoka followed Izuku into the support lab and found that Mei was working at her desk. He dropped off the case and checked on her. Mei, are you doing okay? Mei turned and smiled. Yes. I am doing much better, thank you. She took both of the cases and placed them in her storage locker before locking it. I am ready to head home, what about you guys? Mei was emotionally exhausted and wanted to go get away from it all for a bit. Izuku noted something was off with Mei if she was voluntarily leaving the support lab. Hey, how about we get the other and head to the command center and relax a bit before we all head home? Izuku could tell she was still upset and he wanted to check on his other girlfriends as well. That sounds good to me, Green Bean. Kyoka replied, also picking up that something was off with their pink-haired friend. During their walk back to meet the others, Mei had been quiet, adding little to the conversation. After meeting up with the others girls, they too noticed something was wrong with their inventor. After looking around to see if anyone was nearby, they teleported to the command center. Mei, what wrong? Ochako asked, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. You know we care about you and want to help you if something is the matter. Setsuna said gently. Mei seemed to be wrestling with something for a few moments before speaking. When I saw Bakugo raise his gauntlet, I flashed back to my worst childhood memory. Mei moved over to a chair in the living area. The others follow suit. You see, my father was an inventor and was a really good one, but he was overlooked at in every turn for one reason. He was born quirkless like Zuzu. Mei kept her focus on the table. My mother has eyes similar to mine, but not as powerful. She works a support item researcher and it was how she met my dad. Mei had a sad smile on her face. I grew up wanting to be just like him. He had been working on something for months and would still find time for show me how to build things. Mei started to get emotional as she told the story. Izuku moved closed and held her close for support. One day he finished building whatever it was and went to go patent it. That was the night the police came and told us my father had been murdered. The others girls gasped at this, covering their mouths at the horror. Izuku held her tighter and kissed her forehead. I am so sorry, Mei. He whispered in her ear. The other girls moved close to comfort her as well. They said it was a robbery gone wrong, but they never found my father's designs he had with him when he left that day. Mei had managed to get control of her voice enough to finish her story. So when I saw Bakugo about to attack you after he lost, I just flashed back to that day and I just wanted him to hurt. After she finished, she cried even harder. They all just made sure to hold her and kept tell it was okay until she was able to stop crying. Mei, I am not angry at you for what happened. Izuku adjusted himself so he could look Mei in the eyes. I am so sorry that you felt this way after what happened. He knew she had always avoided the subject of her dad by deflecting the question or ignoring it to work on an invention. He gently moved her hand and placed it over his heart. You feel this? He asked her. When she nodded, he gave her a smile. I will always be there for you and the other girls until my heart stops beating. He gave her a gently quick kiss. You are stuck with me for a very long time. We are here for you, Mei. Ochako said, giving the girl a smile. I kind of wish I had let you get a shot in though. May we are adore you, and to be honest I had thought about doing the same to Bakugo, but you beat me to it. Momo said, wanting to be honest with the girl. Really, Momo? And you didn't tell me? Setsuna chimed in with a laugh. I think we all were thinking about breaking his legs. Nah, I would have went for the hands. Kyoka said in a calm voice. Hit him where it really hurts. His stupid quirk. Thank you guys. Mei said in a small tone, but had a smile on her face. Thank you for doing this with me. Ochako stood up and dusted off her shirt and breathed legs. Now we need to change the mood here. She ate, moving closer to Izuku. Kyoka told us how you made it up to her for scaring her. Now it's our turn for a little attention. Ochako got a gleam in her eyes and pulled him close. For the next little bit each of the girl got their makeout session with him. Mei got a bit longer turn since she needed it. For the group, they were content with each other. After having to keep it all secret all day, they could finally show their affection. Bakugo was groggy when he woke up. He was confused to where he was and didn't remember getting wherever here was. As he started to become more coherent, he realized it was a nurse's office. He then remembered that he had lost his match with Deku. Bakugo growled and then immediately stopped. Normally when he got bad his quirk went off, and when he looked down he noticed that he was cuffed with a special style that is used by heroes and law enforcement to suppress quirks. What the F is this? He growled out, trying to get his hands free from the cuffs, but was unable to break free. Don't bother. Those cuffed would even give All Might a hard time trying to get out of them. A voice came from beside him. Bakugo looked over to see his homeroom teacher sitting in a chair, giving him an angry look. Let me out of these right now. Bakugo demanded with a growl before trying to break free once again. No. I have orders from the principal that watched how your match ended in the near-lethal assault of the opposing team, that you unleashed your attack on them and ignoring instructions to stand down when the match was over. Shoyuda-dun grew harsh as he stood up to look down upon him. If it had not been for Midoriya quick actions, there could have resulted in 3 critically injured students. They would have been fine if they dodged it. Bakugo countered. He did not like how he was being treated, like he was some wannabe villain. He was the top student in his middle school, and here they were treating him like he was just like any one of these pathetic extras. Oh really? Shoyuda asked sarcastically. That is your excuse for it? He activated his quirk, making his eyes glow red. You lost your first training match, and your response was to react like a child throwing a tantrum and unleash a massive explosion towards the opposing team after you had already lost. Shoyuda glare hardened to a hard edge. Bakugo didn't have a response for that, so he just seethed in silence. He was supposed to be the next coming rising star from UA. He was supposed the next All Might as a rising start from the moment he stepped into UA to the day he made his heroic debut. He was destined to be the next #1 hero. At every turn there he was standing in his way. Deku had been the one to save him from the slime villain. Deku had been the one to take the #1 spot at the entrance exams. Deku was the personal student to the principal. Lastly, Deku had beaten him in their match. He was beaten by Deku, someone who had no quirk all his life. Good, you do know how to be quiet. So this is what is going to happen. Effective immediately, you are suspended from UA. Shoyuda watched as his words hit Bakugo where it hurt the most, right in his pride, causing him to have a completely shocked look on his face. I would have expelled you on the spot, but the board has decided that you will have a formal disciplinary hearing to decide what your fate will be for your remaining time here at UA after today's stunt. Shoyuda had been just about finished with the expulsion paperwork when Nizu contacted him about the board was stepping in on one of their chosen students. You will be here at 7:30 a.m. outside the principal's office, and we will start shortly after that. I suggest being on your best behavior as your future is in the balance. Shoyuda walked over and removed his cuffs. Get changed and get out. Bakugo bit his tongue to keep from swearing and headed for the locker room. The entire time he just fumed and raged in his mind while he got changed and went home. Nizu let out a tired sigh at his desk. The chairman Monoma was starting to get on his last nerve, and this was just the adding to his frustration with the board in general. The chairmen were fighting to keep Katsuki Bakugo from being expelled, and it would be an annoyance to him having to deal with their excuses for his actions. He knew what they were going to try and see how far they would go to keep one of the chairman's personal candidates in the school. 𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 prepared for his fight with them tomorrow. He had sent Izuku a message to stay with 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 during his school day tomorrow. 𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 went to this computer and pulled the files he needed. They would learn not to mess with him or his student. When a knock came at his door, 𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 hit the button and opened it to find All Might standing outside his door. 𝐻𝐻𝐿, what do I owe the pleasure for you visit today? 𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 asked as he tapped the button to close the door behind him. 𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 had a good idea what he wanted. 𝐻𝐻𝐿 let out a sigh, shrinking down to her regular form. He was no longer looking like a skeleton as he had been for the last 5 years. After his surgery, therapy, and diet, he was about the same weight and build when he graduated from UA. He still had to buff up for his hero work, but he no longer coughed up blood when he shrank down. His face was more rounded and his eyes were no longer sunken. He looked good for his age. I am sorry to bother you, sir, 𝐻𝐻𝐿 said, moving towards the chair in front of the desk. I would like you help with something. What would that be? 𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 asked, giving the man his full attention. 𝐻𝐻𝐿 seemed to hesitate for a moment before speaking. I would like you help in arranging a meeting between Izuku and 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 Midoryia and myself if it is possible. He let out a deep sigh. I have been trying to find the courage to apologize to him for my words from so long ago, but I have been a coward, finding excuses to push it off. He remembered the hurt look on his face when he arrived in the classroom today. Since that day I have done my best to be a better hero and improve myself by reaching out to quirkless orphanages to volunteer some time and making more comments about their importance to our society. I need to make amends to Izuku, sir. 𝐻𝐻𝐿 bowed his head. 𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 sat there in silence and thought about if he should help him with the problem. After finished thinking it over, he made his decision. I will set it up for you to speak with them tomorrow afternoon. 𝐻𝐻𝐿 made a note to discuss this with Izuku after he had dealt with Bakugo disciplinary hearing tomorrow. 𝐻𝐻𝐿 could see that 𝐻𝐻𝐿 was truly trying to make amends. When he came here months ago asking to teach at UA, it had been a long discussion about his quirk one for all, his time limit, and his successor coming to this school. Thank you, sir, 𝐻𝐻𝐿 said, rising to leave his office. Wish me luck. He buffed back up before stepping out of the office. 𝐻𝐻𝐿 sat back in his chair after watching him leave. You are going to need it, my friend. 𝐻𝐻𝐿 knew his student well and knew how 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 was going to react. May finally made it home after telling her emotional story to her friends and her much-needed make-out session with her boyfriend that lifted her spirits. When she came into her home, she noticed her mother had fallen asleep on the couch again, and May moved and covered her with a blanket. May knew her mother worked hard and was doing everything she could to keep a roof over their heads. May kissed her mom's forehead and went to eat some leftovers for dinner. After cleaning up the dishes and doing a few chores around the house, she took a much-needed shower. She was just about to call it a night when she went to sit at her desk and opened up a hidden compartment she had built into it. May reached in taking something out before she looked at the morpher sitting in the palm of her hand. Am I truly worthy to use this? She wondered before putting it on her nightstand as she drifted off to sleep. 𝐻𝐻𝐿 waited patiently as the board members were still entering the room before the hearing was supposed to begin. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 sat next to 𝐻𝐻𝐿, trying not to sigh out loud as he was not wanting to be here to deal with these sycophants. He looked over to see Bakugo sitting in his uniform looking angry as he normally did. His mother was sitting beside him hissing something into his ear and trying to get him to smooth out his uniform. 𝐀𝐮𝐿 was sure she was telling him to keep his mouth shut. The other members were making small talk with one another. It was almost time to start when the chairman walked into the room. Chairman 𝐻𝐻𝐿 was almost a spitting image of his younger brother, with the exception he was a bit more on the heavy side. 𝐻𝐻𝐿 could see that the family probably had the same arrogant smirk. As soon as he entered the room, the other members swarmed to greet and fawn over him. 𝐻𝐻𝐿 had to fight the urge not to be disgusted at the sight in front of him. All of them were fawning of the fact the chairman had done them all a favor in the past, and he held it over them for their votes. 𝐻𝐻𝐿 had been slowly investigating the Monoma family with the help of Deku and was not surprised to see that the family had been in positions of power for nearly 200 years, and it was always a patriarchal family. Each male head of the family always had a position of influence in the government, and the other members of the family would spread out into other positions to help keep them in power with influence and information. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 noted that the family was nearly ruined 5 years ago from a corruption scandal involving one of their uncles that resulted in the family losing nearly all of its fortune, and most of the family was jailed as a result of that investigation. It had only been in the last 3 years or so they had built their power back up to allow for 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 to become chairman of the UA board, and his brother was now a middle-rank member of HPSC as an investigator that had been slowly crawling up the ranks. The family had withered over the years, had brought down family members down to 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 was now the next in line as the future head of the Monoma family. The board members all took their seats when it was time for the hearing to begin. Chairman Monoma had cleared his throat as he got comfortable. Thank you all for coming today, as we are here for the disciplinary hearing for Katsuki Bakugo from his actions during his first heroics class. According to reports filed by several instructors during this class, Bakugo used excessive force after his match ended and the opposing team had been declared the winner. Chairman Monoma read off the case against Bakugo. The report says he refused several orders to stand down the instructors. The chairman set the file down. Now let us get started. Izuku gave his daughter one last hug before he headed off to meet with the girls. He made his way to their normal meeting spot with the girls. They found another empty room to get their morning kisses and asked if he had heard anything about Bakugo. When he told them no, they hoped they would hear something soon. When it started getting close for class to start, they had to get going. Mei headed for her workbench, promising to have his suit cleaned before the afternoon class started. Momo, Ochako, and Kyoka kissed him and headed for their classroom. Setsuna locked arms with him to hurry him to class 1B for the day. Unbeknown to the little group, Toru had come to school early and decided to walk around to explore the school a bit when she saw Izuku head towards a classroom with some of their classmates. She stayed back a little bit to avoid Kyoka's superhearing. After they entered the room, she snuck over to listen to the door out of curiosity. She heard what they were doing. When she heard them coming out of the room, darted back behind a nearby corner. She poked her head to watch them leave the room, perk of being invisible. "Oh, I so have to tell Mina about this," she whispered with excitement. She darted off in a different direction, sending a message to find out where her friend was at. Izuku was getting a little nervous about going to 1B. He knew Setsuna and had gotten to meet a few of them the day before, but this would be the first time in class with them. Setsuna patted his arm. "I got your back, Izuku," she smiled at him. "The class is pretty easygoing." "Thank you, Setsuna." Izuku smiled back. "Oh, before I forget, 𝐴𝐵𝐴𝐿𝐴 wanted me to give you this." Izuku reached into his back and pulled out a piece of paper. When he showed it to her, it was a roughly drawn picture of her and 𝐴𝐵𝐴𝐿𝐴 with Mama Suna written next to her. Setsuna got a bit emotional at this gesture from her. She was already close to the young girl after their time together, and now she wanted to go down to the nurse's office and hug that girl with everything she had. "When we get a chance, I want to go hug her as a thank you. Mom is expecting you to stop by when you get a chance to do just that," Izuku said, glad to see she was enjoying her gift. "Now let's get to class, Mama Suna." He teased her, watching as she blushed a bit. She retaliated by elbowing her boyfriend in the ribs. Setsuna opened the door and gestured for him to walk in. As Izuku walked inside, the room went silent as they turned to look at him. "Hey everyone. I'll be with your class for the day." He waited for the class to say or do anything. It was in a sudden rush that several of them came over to talk with him. "Hey man, I'm Tetsu, and I have to say what you did during your battle trial yesterday was truly manly." He held out a fist for him. Izuku completed the fist bump and Tetsu smiled big at him. "Are you related to Kirishima by any chance?" Izuku asked out of curiosity. "You guys have very similar quirks." Izuku resisted the urge to grab his notebook and start asking him questions. This caused a bit of snickering from his classmates, but Tetsu just rolled his eyes at the question. "It's just a coincidence, and no, we are not related to each other," Tetsu replied, shaking his head as he looked at a blonde girl beside him with large horns snickering at him. "Don't even start, Pony." Pony started to laugh at him. "Not fault you manly," she said in broken Japanese. "I wish I could talk in English, it would make this so much easier." the girls said in perfect English as she was still struggling to speak the language of her peers. "Oh, would it be helpful for you if I spoke English for you?" Izuku asked in English since he figured Pony would be having a hard time trying to keep up with the group conversation. This had an immediate reaction from Pony. She tensed for a moment before she moved closer to look him straight in the eye. "You can understand and speak English." Pony words were slow and cautious. Izuku gave her a very confused look before responding. "Yes." Izuku had been taking lessons from 𝐻𝐿𝐿 and had been able to pick it up rather quickly. Before anyone could react, she rushed forward and hugged him tightly, causing Izuku to gasp for air as she was stronger than she looked. "Thank you, I have been dying for someone besides my cousin to talk to me in English." She spun him back and forth like he was a rag doll. Several students had to pry him loose from her strong grip and Izuku gasped for air. "No problem, Pony," Izuku said to her, trying to massage his ribs. "Not even here 5 minutes and nearly get hugged to death by one of your new classmates." Setsuna teased him after she made sure he was okay. "Careful, Pony, or you may crack a rib of your new friend with your strength." Pony looked at Setsuna just as excited. "You speak English too." She grew more excited by the minute and began talking with Setsuna with innocent excitement. Izuku took the time to catch his breath and stretched. "She is much stronger than she looks." He muttered in surprise as the other class members chuckled a bit. "Well, she is learning Japanese quickly, but she still struggles from time to time," Tetsu explained to him as he gently patted his back. "Thank you for your kindness just now." Izuku waved it off with a smile. Izuku got to meet several other students that came to Raphtalia's defense. Itsuka and Ibra introduced themselves after welcoming him to Class 1B. He met his other classmates with the exception of Monoma, who sat in the back of the room just glaring at Izuku with contempt and disgust. Eventually everyone just ignored him since he was not a pleasant person to be around. Soon it was time for class to start, with Vlad King coming to get the day started. The morning classes went fast, and before Izuku knew it was the last class before lunch when he was contacted by 𝐻𝐿𝐿 to come to his office. He waved at his classmates and Setsuna before heading to see his mentor. As he reached the office, the door opened automatically and 𝐻𝐿𝐿 waved him into the office. "I hope your morning has been going well today." Izuku gave him a nod. Yes, it had been very pleasant with 1B with the exception from Monoma, but that is to be expected. Izuku had watched as the boy went out of his way to glare at him and had even tried to shoulder bump him at one point, but had been blocked by Itsuka. "I take it this is about Bakugo." 𝐻𝐿𝐿 smiled at his young protege. "Yes, the meeting started on time and went for about 2 hours this morning." 𝐻𝐿𝐿 slid a file towards Izuku. Chairman Monoma was his usual self. He came to young Bakugo defense stating that it was a training accident. 𝐻𝐿𝐿's voice was full of disdain. Both 𝐶𝐿𝐿 and I disagreed with that statement and challenged him, trying to get the board to take this seriously. Izuku let out a deep sigh. "So, what was his punishment that the board decided to give him for this training accident that almost resulted in serious injuries for 3 students?" Izuku knew that this would happen since Bakugo had been selected by the board personally. It reminded him of his middle school days as the teachers and staff overlooked her abusive behavior toward him since he was destined to be a great hero. 𝐻𝐿𝐿's frown deepened. Katsuki Bakugo had been suspended for 1 week before he will be allowed to return to class and must now meet with Hound Dog twice a week for anger management classes for the remainder of the semester. Izuku blinked in surprise at what the board called punishment. That is, a week's suspension and anger management. Class that he should have already been taking before coming to UA. Izuku looked incredulous at this revelation. Had I not morphed and deflected his attack, Mina, Toru and I could have been seriously injured, and they are practically giving him a slap on the wrist? Izuku asked, trying not to lose his temper at the actions of the chairman. 𝐻𝐿𝐿 nodded at Izuku with a serious expression. 𝐶𝐿𝐿 and I made that very argument as well. It seems the chairman, to be precise, thinks it would be too detrimental to Bakugo's future hero career to suspend him any longer than a week. 𝐻𝐿𝐿 had never been so angry at the board at their blatant disregard for the safety of the other students. He talked with Deku to increase her digging into the chairman's dirty dealings. He was waiting for it to bear fruit. He needed to put that bastard behind bars. That was not the only thing, is there? Izuku asked, knowing that this was not everything that happened during the meeting. No, it was not, 𝐻𝐻𝐸 said, leaning back in his chair. During the disciplinary hearing, I am sorry, but could you repeat that? 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 asked with anger in his voice. Chairman Monoma smirked at the question before leaning forward on the desk. I said if anyone should be suspended longer than a week or expelled for this whole incident, it would be Izuku Midoryia for his overreaction towards Katsuki Bakugo. 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 tightened his fists hard enough it nearly drew blood. How is that possible? I was there the entire time watching that match. He saved his fellow teammates from that explosion, and when Bakugo, who had been told to stand down multiple times, became hostile, he stopped him until All Might and I could take over. 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 was so close to knocking that smug bastard out of his chair. The hearing so far had been a joke, a slap on the wrist, and counseling for his temper tantrum. Be that as it may, Midoriya used dangerous equipment that could have caused serious harm to Bakugo as well. Since he has refused to hand it over to HPSC official for testing, we can only assume that he could have killed Bakugo with that kind of power. Chairman Nigo smiled cruelly at 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 and 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻. 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻 smiled back at the chairman. You mean he refused to hand it over to your brother? 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻 watched the smile disappear from Nigo's face. As Izuku and I explained to Nero the other day, Izuku has not broken any rules of UA or the HPSC that would result in having his equipment being confiscated or examined. 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻 watched as the chairman's face became a sneer. I know you used that very excuse to exclude him from Class 1A and Class 1B after he scored the top spot in the exam's history to put your nephew into the hero course. The room became very tense as 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻 and the chairman started to glare at each other to see who would blink first. 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 watched as the other members of the board were starting to get very uncomfortable at the tension building in the room. No one was wanting to get in between the two of them, as it looked like all that was needed at the moment was a spark to ignite this powder keg. That I not why we are here today? Chairman Nigo growled out as he leaned back into his chair. The board has voted on Katsuki Bakugo punishment. This hearing is over. He stood up from his chair quickly and strode with anger to the door and left without another word. The rest of the board members started to scramble out of the room behind him. 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻 smirked at his victory in this little skirmish between the two of them. He was sure that Nigo would retaliate against him soon. He watched Ms. Bakugo lead her son out of the room to take him home for the duration of his suspension. Izuku is not going to be happy about Bakugo's punishment. I am not happy about it, and I want you to know that I will be holding him on a tighter leash. 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 said, looking at his boss to make sure he was on board with his decision. That will be fine, 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴. I trust you to handle Bakugo as you see fit after this fiasco. 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻 said, standing up from the table. I will talk to Izuku soon to let him know personally. Back in the present, sir, I am so sorry if I caused you any dash. Izuku tried to apologize to his mentor only to see 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻 stopping him with a wave of his paw. You have nothing to apologize for, Izuku. This has been a fight between the two of us for the past few years. 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻 said, leaning back in his chair. I have been investigating that man since he was chosen for the board. Now I have reason to remove him from this prestigious school. Izuku gave him a strange look. Sir, I know you well enough to know you would have found something a long time ago. Izuku had learned a lot during his time as 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻's student, and he would not let something like this go on without a reason. You are wanting to bury the entire Monoma family and the other board members in one blow, right? 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻 started to cackle with pride. That is exactly right, Izuku, and I could not be prouder of your deduction of that. 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻 folded his arms. Now we have a few minutes before lunch starts, and there is something else I want to talk to you about. His tone became quiet and calm. Izuku felt a pit in his stomach. What is that, sir? He asked, knowing that it had to be serious if 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻 was being straightforward. 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻 looked him in the eye. All Might has requested to talk with you and your mother this afternoon. Izuku felt stunned at 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻's words. All Might has requested to talk with my mother and I. He was not sure how to feel about this. He still felt anxious to be in the same room with him the day before. Now he wanted to talk. Will you be there as well, sir? Izuku asked in a small voice. 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻 knew this was something his student would have to overcome eventually. I can sit in if you would like, Izuku. 𝐻𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 had very few humans that he liked to be around. For the longest time, he was comfortable around just 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗟. He had gotten more comfortable with the rest of the staff as time went on, but Izuku was special to him. He felt like a kindred spirit after listening to all the abuse he went through getting knocked down and kept getting back up for more. "Thank you," Izuku said with a small bow. 𝐻𝐮𝐴's eyes softened slightly. "My pleasure, Izuku. Now it is almost time for lunch, and I want you to go have fun with your friends, and I will have 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 send you up here when it is time to meet with All Might." Izuku nodded and headed off to find his friends and try to ignore his upcoming meeting with the man that smashed his dreams. Izuku met up with his friends in the lunchroom. They had grabbed a big table for them all to sit there. At the table was Momo, Kyoka, Ochako, Setsuna, Kirishima, Mina, Toru, Kaminari, Hitoshi, Fumikage, Tsu, Tetsu, Itsuka, Ibra and Pony. Mei was not a fan of large crowds and preferred to her lunch at her workstation. "You have got to be kidding me," Mina shouted after Izuku filled them all in on what happened to Bakugo. The rest of the table was just as upset as she was after hearing how light on punishment Bakugo received. "That prick could have killed me and Toru, and they gave him a slap on the wrist." Mina's hands were trembling with rage. She had never been so scared in her life after watching that Pomeranian go over the deep end. Toru was hugging herself after hearing that after going through all that and seeing her life flash before her eyes it only cost Bakugo 1 week. She slept badly the night before after having a nightmare only to wake up in a cold sweat. "I am sorry," Izuku said to them bowing his head. "They let him off so lightly because I was involved with the whole incident." Izuku felt bad that his friends had not gotten justice because of him. Izuku felt something tap his shoulder. He turned to see Ochako had poked his shoulder with his finger. "None of that, Izuku," Ochako said in a kind but stern voice. "You are not responsible for his actions or lack of inaction from the board." She hated to see him take the blame for the mistake of others. Mina looked over and gave him a gentle smile. "Izuku, I owe you one for saving me and Toru. I don't blame you for their stupidity." Mina reached over and ruffled his messy hair. "Yeah, I owe you a thanks as well, Izuku," Toru said, jumping up from her seat and moving around to hug him from behind. "I don't blame you either." She patted his head and let out a small squeal. "His hair is so fluffy." Mina kept petting him. They had their fun until they were jabbed with Kyoka earjacks. "All right, enough, you are making Green Bean feel uncomfortable." She pointed to see he was red-faced and hugging himself. Both backed away and apologized. "Anyway, since we have that all over with, Izuku, what do you think 1B Heroics class will be about?" Hitoshi asked just to try and get everything back to normal. "Think it will be a repeat or will they change it up since they watched our class yesterday?" Izuku thought for a moment. Possibly a combination of what 1A did yesterday and adding a new objective added to keep the class guessing. Izuku muttered a bit as he ran the possible scenarios until he noticed the looks of awe on their faces. Oops, started muttering again. "It's all good, Mido bro," Kirishima said, waving it off. "I must say, Midoriya, that you have the mind of a tactician," Ibra said after understanding some of his mutterings. "I can see why your team did so well yesterday during the battle trials." Ibra had been quite impressed at how he maneuvered around them. "Yeah, now I want a chance to spar with you with Tetsu, Itsuka said with a grin as she cracked her knuckles. She had been bored as of late at her dojo since no one was a real challenge. She was hoping that she would get to spar with someone new. Soon lunch fell into a more lively time for everyone to relax and have some fun talking about their favorite movies. Everyone was having a good time that they had to hurry to finish their food before lunch came to an end. Like the day before, Izuku ran down to the support course and got his case from Mei and made sure she had something to eat for lunch before he kissed her cheek and went to get dressed for today's class. When he got to the class, he was impressed with almost everyone's costumes. He had to suppress a blush from Setsuna's tight green suit and mask. She gave him a wink as he entered the room. Izuku looked over to see 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 standing in front of the class with Snipe and 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘. Class 1A was already seated in the viewing room. His friends waved at him as he walked in. "All right, everyone, let's get started. Yesterday we watched Class 1A battle in teams of 2 to prevent the detonation of a bomb. Today we are going to do something similar, but with a different objective. Vlad King clicked the remote showing a similar video as the day before. You be in teams of 2 with the villains will have a hostage that will need to be rescued and hero team will be going in to search and rescue the hostage. Vlad clicked the screen off before gesturing for Snipe to bring out the boxes to draw for lots. Now like yesterday we will be drawing for teams. Everyone got in line except Izuku to draw for their team pairings. After entering the pairings into the computer, Snipe put them on the screen. 𝐻𝐿𝐼 and 𝗧𝗜𝗧𝗟𝗘 team A 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 Kendo and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 team B 𝐼𝐵RA and 𝐶𝗍𝗔𝐿 team C 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 team 𝐑𝐭setsu 𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 Bondo team 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 team F Reiko Yanagi and Kinoko Komori team 𝐺 Shishida and Hiryu Rin team 𝐻𝐈 Kodai and Manga Fukudashi team I Toguru Kamakiri and Shirhai Kurwaro team J. Izuku, come on up and draw to see who you will be paired with. Vlad King called out after placing all of the lots back in the box. After drawing his lot with AB, Setsuna complained about Izuku not being on their team. Ibra patted the girl's shoulders in sympathy. Pony got excited and high-fived Itsuka about getting their new friends on their team. As Vlad hit the randomizer on the screen, everyone watched the screen intensely. When it stopped, everyone was stunned at the pairing. Itsuka Kendo and Pony Tsunetory Izuku Midoryia Team B heroes versus 𝐻𝐿𝐼 and 𝗧𝗜𝗧𝗟𝗘 Team A villains. So much for random matches. Shoyuta muttered as he rolled his eyes at the computer screen. He was 100% certain that Nizu was messing with the computer pairings from his office for his own amusement against the chairman to make a point. Shoyuta knew this was not going to end well for Monoma. Vlad King had to suppress a comment of his own before he cleared his throat before speaking. Now villain team will carry this computerized dummy and place it in the location of their choice inside the building. You have 15 minutes to prepare your lair as you see fit. Tetsu picked up the dummy and followed a smug-looking Nido towards the building. The rest of the class let out a sigh as he left the room. They had been getting tired of his superior attitude and talking down to the class. He was hoping that it would fade soon, but he was not holding his breath at this point. Izuku was doing one last check of his equipment when he heard someone behind him. "Papa!" Izuku turned and smiled to see his daughter run into the room towards him. She was followed by his mom a moment later with a smile on her face. Izuku smiled at her antics and scooped her up as she got close and hugged her tight. Raphtalia started to giggle. "I wanted to come to wish you luck, Papa." Her smile was bright and full of life. Izuku kissed her forehead. "Well, I am glad to see you too, and thank you for wanting to wish me luck." He tossed her up in the air and caught her just as quick to make her laugh. The room couldn't help but smile at this adorable sight. Mina and Toru squealed at this. His girlfriends were smiling at the sight as well. "I have to head in to plan with my team, but will you keep out of trouble today?" Raphtalia smiled back, giving him a thumbs up. "Okay, Papa." As soon as her feet hit the floor, she ran off to sit on Momo's lap while talking with Setsuna and the others around her. She started telling her about her day, was happy at their attention. She waved at Izuku as he walked into the waiting area with his teammates. As she was sitting there, she decided to have a bit of harmless fun looking over at Mina. "Hey, Miss Mina, you never answered my question yesterday about my papa." Mina stiffened at her words and flushed a little bit purple. "Oh, I didn't." Mina asked, not sure how to answer that question. Sure, Izuku had been kind and nice to her and her best friend, but she just met him the day before. She and Toru had a small discussion earlier after Toru overheard them this morning in the abandoned classroom, and they were positive they were all dating. "What do you want from anyone who becomes your mama?" Mina redirected the question, hoping to distract her. Raphtalia thought for a moment. "Well, I would want her to make my papa happy. I would want her to be pretty and enjoy taking care of me." Raphtalia acted like she had to think about it some more, watching how her mamas were. Listening to her words. "I would want her to read stories to me and take me to play in the park." She watched as her mamas all smiled at her description, and then she hopped off Momo's lap and went over to stand in front of Toru. "Miss Toru, will you date my papa so you can be my new mama?" Raphtalia asked. Her tone was sweet and genuine. She watched at the inviolable girl went stiff. Raphtalia waited as the invisible girl slowly started to move and picked the girl up and hugged her. "I will talk with him later about setting something up," Toru said, hugging the stuffing out of the girl. She sat Raphtalia on her lap and began to pet her head, making her tail wag happily as she leaned into the petting. "Oh, you are so adorable." While this was going on, the girls were stunned that she pulled the same trick twice, and this time someone said yes. Ochako pinched the bridge of her nose. "We need to talk with her about her antics." She mumbled to the others, who nodded in agreement. "I blame Setsuna," Momo said, giving her friend a sideways glance in her direction. "Raphtalia learned her mischievous ways from the best." Setsuna gave a weak chuckle. "I didn't think she would do it again. She tried to defend herself. She liked to tease and joke around, but this was coming back to bite her in the butt. Hey, those tendencies were already there, I just encouraged them." Kyoka rolled her eyes. "I heard you tell her good work yesterday when she did the same thing to Mina. The perk of having good hearing was she could hear certain things when she wanted to. Let's deal with this later. The match is about to start," Ochako said, watching as the timer counted down to 0. She planned to have all of them sit down with her when they got a chance. Tetsu picked up the dummy and followed a smug-looking Nido towards the building. The rest of the class let out a sigh as he left the room. They had been getting tired of his superior attitude and talking down to the class. He was hoping that it would fade soon, but he was not holding his breath at this point. Izuku was doing one last check of his equipment when he heard someone behind him. "Papa!" Izuku turned and smiled to see his daughter run into the room towards him. She was followed by his mom a moment later with a smile on her face. Izuku smiled at her antics and scooped her up as she got close and hugged her tight. Raphtalia started to giggle. "I wanted to come to wish you luck, Papa." Her smile was bright and full of life. Izuku kissed her forehead. "Well, I am glad to see you too, and thank you for wanting to wish me luck." He tossed her up in the air and caught her just as quick to make her laugh. The room couldn't help but smile at this adorable sight. Mina and Toru squealed at this. His girlfriends were smiling at the sight as well. "I have to head in to plan with my team, but will you keep out of trouble today?" Raphtalia smiled back, giving him a thumbs up. "Okay, Papa." As soon as her feet hit the floor, she ran off to sit on Momo's lap while talking with Setsuna and the others around her. She started telling her about her day, was happy at their attention. She waved at Izuku as he walked into the waiting area with his teammates. As she was sitting there, she decided to have a bit of harmless fun looking over at Mina. "Hey, Miss Mina, you never answered my question yesterday about my papa." Mina stiffened at her words and flushed a little bit purple. "Oh, I didn't." Mina asked, not sure how to answer that question. Sure, Izuku had been kind and nice to her and her best friend, but she just met him the day before. She and Toru had a small discussion earlier after Toru overheard them this morning in the abandoned classroom, and they were positive they were all dating. "What do you want from anyone who becomes your mama?" Mina redirected the question, hoping to distract her. Raphtalia thought for a moment. "Well, I would want her to make my papa happy. I would want her to be pretty and enjoy taking care of me." Raphtalia acted like she had to think about it some more, watching how her mamas were listening to her words. "I would want her to read stories to me and take me to play in the park." She watched as her mamas all smiled at her description, and then she hopped off Momo's lap and went over to stand in front of Toru. "Miss Toru, will you date my papa so you can be my new mama?" Raphtalia asked. Her tone was sweet and genuine. She watched at the inviolable girl went stiff. Raphtalia waited as the invisible girl slowly started to move and picked the girl up and hugged her. "I will talk with him later about setting something up," Toru said, hugging the stuffing out of the girl. She sat Raphtalia on her lap and began to pet her head, making her tail wag happily as she leaned into the petting. "Oh, you are so adorable." While this was going on, the girls were stunned that she pulled the same trick twice, and this time someone said yes. Ochako pinched the bridge of her nose. "We need to talk with her about her antics." She mumbled to the others, who nodded in agreement. "I blame Setsuna," Momo said, giving her friend a sideways glance in her direction. Raphtalia learned her mischievous ways from the best. Setsuna gave a weak chuckle. "I didn't think she would do it again. She tried to defend herself. She liked to tease and joke around, but this was coming back to bite her in the butt. Hey, those tendencies were already there, I just encouraged them. Kyoka rolled her eyes. I heard you tell her good work yesterday when she did the same thing to Mina. The perk of having good hearing was she could hear certain things when she wanted to. Let's deal with this later. The match is about to start. Ochako said, watching as the timer counted down to 0. She planned to have all of them sit down with her when they got a chance. Izuku had talked it over with his teammates as they decided to take it slow and cautious in the beginning. He switched to an SPD Morpher and waved his hand, filling the room with bright green energy. He used the ability of psychometry. The energy formed in the vague shape of their opponents and moved towards the stairs. This way, Izuku said quietly as they slowly and cautiously follow the energy projections. They had decided to use his abilities to help find out where they were hiding in the building and find a way to distract them long enough to get the hostage out. The building was shorter than one for the day before by a floor and was a bit on the narrow side. After a few more waves, they narrowed down the room closest to the stairs when Izuku cancelled out his ability. Kendo gestured for them to slowly move back down to the floor below. After finding a good spot to talk, Kendo pulled out a hand-drawn map of the building and pointed to the room in question. There is a window on the side of the building that Pony can use to make entry after we make a big enough distraction, drawing 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗟𝗘 and Monoma away from hostage. Plan sounds good, Pony said before switching back to English. I will wait for the chance to grab the hostage and get out. She gave them a thumbs up. She wanted to beat that arrogant JRK that had been insulting her for being American and called her a cow on the first day of class. I think it is time for us to have a little fun with Monoma. He changed his morpher and nodded towards Itsuka. After talking over their plan of action, they went to work. Monoma sat there bored out of his mind as he sat there with the class brute waiting for the other team to arrive. He saw this entire exercise as pointless. He wanted to do something more heroic to show off his amazing abilities. Unfortunately, he was only able to copy his teammates' steel quirk. He wished had a chance to borrow a few from his other classmates, but they would fade before he got a chance to use them. He had tried to flirt with some of his female classmates, but they just blew off his advances. He could not understand his family was of high prestige and influence. Now he was going to prove it by beating the mistake that was allowed into this school and prove he doesn't belong here. He was broken from his musings when the door blew off its hinges, revealing Kendo standing in the door with her large fists. Finally, time for some fun, Monoma said, standing up as stalked towards her, dusting off his breathes. Awfully brave to come here alone, hero. Itsuka smirked. So far I am not impressed with what I'm seeing. She smirked as Monoma scowled at her for the insult. She reached up and tapped her ear. I found them one floor up in the corner. She resumed her battle pose. I won't be outnumbered for long. She taunted with a "come and get me" gesture with her hands. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗟 activated his quirk and rushed towards initiating the fight. Should have waited for backup, he yelled, starting to exchange blows with her. He powered through her enhanced blows and rained down his attacks, which she deflected with her enlarged hands. Itsuka and 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗟 continued to exchange blows as Monoma watched with boredom. He saw no reason for him to sully his hands with a lowly commoner. He would wait for another member to appear before he acted. As he was about to join his teammate just to alleviate his boredom to take her out of the fight when the window exploded inward as Pony came flying in on her horns, heading towards the dummy with a smile on her face. Monoma smirked and moved to intercept her when he tripped and fell to the floor face first. What the hell? He swore as he looked to see what had caused him to trip. Izuku slowly started to reappear with the capture cloth in hand. On his wrist was a silver bracelet with a black stone. Hello, did you have a nice trip? He smirked at his opponent's confusion. Izuku had used the black Dino Gem invisibility power and followed Itsuka into the room and moved to get in place for Pony's arrival. When she came to get the dummy, he wrapped the cloth around Monoma's ankle and tripped him to the floor. I have the illustrious honor to say thank you for handing us our win. Impossible. Monoma snarled, trying to get up from the ground, watching just in time to see Pony carrying the dummy on her back, giving him a victory sign as she flew towards the window. His stomach dropped as she cleared the window a moment later. Hero team wins. Izuku flicked his wrist and recalled the scarf back to him. Nice job, Itsuka. he called out as he walked back to his teammate. They gave each other a high five. You did well, 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗟𝗘. Maybe next time we can have a full-out fight. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗟𝗘 smirked big at that. Set the time, man, and I will be there ready to throw down with you. He gave Izuku a fist bump and was eager to have a match with him. 𝗏𝗏 stood up, jabbing a finger towards Izuku. I knew a quirkless freak like you were a coward. You hid behind a woman and then ambushed me. He snarled, seething in rage at being tricked by something like him. Why did you fight with the blonde gremlin, but hide from us? Were you scared of a real opponent? Izuku rolled his eyes. I know Bakugo since childhood. I knew what buttons I needed to push to get him off balance. I didn't even see any reason for me to fight you when your pride would do that for me. Izuku gave him a shrug, brushing off his insult. I didn't see a purpose to go all out when a slight distraction and perfectly timed trip from me was all it took for our win. Izuku turned and walked out the door, heading back to the viewing room. Itsuka and 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗟𝗃 glared at their arrogant classmate before following behind him. 𝗏𝗏 stood in shock at how easily he was dismissed. He was of a pedigree going back 200 years. He had been trained since the age of 4 to be the best. He had been able to charm people in a room since the age of this made no sense of how people kept brushing him aside as if he was nobody. He wanted to act like the gremlin the day before and attack that freak, but his father and uncle warned him against that since it would draw unwanted attention from the principal at this time. So, he would do what his family had done for centuries. Wait until the moment was right and destroy everything he loved. The hero team came back into the room with cheers at their win. Mostly it was coming from Class 1B since 𝗏𝗏 had lost. They had been stuck in class with him for 3 days and they were already tired of him. They were enjoying him getting knocked down a peg. Izuku was quickly greeted by Raphtalia in her normal excited self. Papa, you won. She jumped off of Toru's lap to run over to be picked up and hugged. Izuku did chuckle at her antics. She was full on energy as her tail sang wildly. Thank you, Raphtalia, Izuku said with a smile. She looked over to see his girlfriends were giving her a stern look. Are you behaving? Izuku had a suspicion that she had been mischievous again. Well, I have been kind of good, Raphtalia said, looking away from him. She was trying to look as innocent as possible. Izuku quirked an eyebrow. Is that so? He said, walking towards the girls. Let me ask Momo then if you have been behaving. Izuku felt her tense at that. Up to mischief then. I'm sorry. She curled into him, hiding her face. Her ears folded up. Toru got up, walking over to pat the girl on the head. It's okay, Izuku. She was trying to get you a date. It was rather adorable in her attempts to make you happy. She leaned to one side. When this is over, I want to find time for you to take me out on a date. Izuku's face turned beet red at this. What? He was not sure he heard her right. He looked down to see Raphtalia doing a small fist pump. That little mischievous tanuki. He thought as he tried to find the right words. He felt an invisible finger touch his lips. Later, Izuku, Toru said, heading back to her seat, adding a bit of sway in her hips. Before Izuku could even finish processing that, he heard a phone ring and saw Shoyuta take it out of his pocket to answer it. After about 10 seconds he hung up. He gestured for Izuku to come towards him. Nizu wants you in his office for a meeting. Shoyuta left it vague for his privacy. He looked over at Inko. He had requested your presence as well, Miss Midoriya. Okay, I will grab Raphtalia and we will head that way, Inko replied, standing up, heading over to grab her granddaughter. She knew the girl was not going to be happy to sit through a meeting. Excuse me, Miss Midoriya, Sue called, walking up to her. Inko stopped to look at the young frog girl. Yes, dear. If you are okay with it, all of the girls can watch her for you, Karo, Sue suggested, pointing to her fellow classmates. I have 2 younger siblings at home and wouldn't mind watching her for a bit. Are you sure? I don't want to inconvenience you girls. Inko had been a bit hesitant to leave her with strangers. She knew Izuku girlfriends would help, but she was not sure how Raphtalia would handle her and Izuku not being around. It's all good, Miss Midoriya, we don't mind. Toru chimed in, waving at her. She wanted to spend more time with the young girl anyway. Yeah, we got this, Mama Midoriya. Mina joined in, giving her a peace sign. I don't mind helping them watch this cutie. Now that she knew how crafty the girl was, she was prepared for her antics. Ochako stood up and transferred 𝗏𝗡𝗠 from Izuku over to her hip. "We will watch her, it's not a problem," she said as Setsuna, Momo, and Kyoka nodded along. They had watched her before, so this was not a big deal. "I help too," Pony said quickly, clacking her hooves as she bounced back and forth. "I want to help with the chibi," she added in English. Pony waved at the girl with a big smile. Itsuka and Ibra also said they would help as well. Inko thought for a moment. "That will be fine, but if there is an issue, please have someone get a hold of myself or Izuku." She was probably safer here than anywhere else at this point. "It will be fine, Miss Midoriya," Momo said in a regal tone. "She will be fine under our care." Momo gave her a reassuring smile. "Thank you, girls, for doing this, I really appreciate it. 𝗏𝗡𝗠, please behave for them while I am gone," Inko said, giving her a stern look. 𝗏𝗡𝗠 nodded quickly. "Yes, Grandma." She knew her grandma could be scary when she got mad. She had watched her yell at an older student for something. It was pretty scary to her. Izuku kissed his daughter's forehead. "Be a good girl for the girls, and I may forego a punishment for your mischief earlier." He looked up to see Setsuna and Kyoka mouthing the word, "softy." He gave them a quick wink. "Hey, Papa." She smiled at him as she got comfortable with Ochako. She focused back on the screen when Setsuna was called up next with her partner Ibra as they faced off against Reiko Yanagi and Kinoko Komori for the next match. Off to the side, Mina and Toru were having a text conversation on their phones about possible plans for the future. They decided this was the best way to talk with Kyoka in the room. Izuku and Inko made their way to Nizu's office. Nizu had sent Inko a message about having All Might talk with them together. Izuku started to feel anxious as soon as he left the viewing room. He felt his mother throw her arm around his shoulder. "I will be with you the whole time, baby," she said, pulling him a bit closer to her. "Thanks, Mom," Izuku replied, leaning against her shoulder. He had been nervous about seeing him in class that first time, and he had the girls there to help him. He was not sure why All Might wanted to see him now after 10 months. It felt like an eternity walking towards Nizu's office. As he reached the door to find it opening up automatically like it usually did. When they entered, Izuku spotted his mentor in his usual spot at his desk. The chairs had been turned to face each other 6 feet apart. All Might was sitting in one of the chairs in a yellow striped suit. He had a serious expression on his face. Izuku took a deep breath as he entered the room. His mother gently gripped his shoulder in support. "Thank you for letting us use your office, sir," Izuku said to break the tension in the room a bit. He was glad that Nizu was here with his mother for support. "You are quite welcome, Izuku, and thank you, Miss Midoriya, for coming as well," Nizu replied with a wave of his paw. He pressed a button and the door closed behind them. Both of them took a set across from the #1 hero as All Might's leg fidgeted a bit. "Not a problem, sir. Now, what is this meeting about?" Inko looked at All Might with a lot of contempt and fury. It was enough to make the man fidget a bit. She had heard everything from Izuku so long ago, but she never forgot his broken voice when he told that part of his story about All Might crushing his dreams. "You can drop your form. I was told by Recovery Girl and Nizu in case there was an emergency with you." Izuku and All Might both looked surprised at this revelation. "Oh, I see, well, I can do that," All Might said before in a poof he shrank down, but not as much as Izuku remembered of him. He no longer coughed up BLD when he shrank down. His face was more rounded and his eyes were no longer sunken. "Thank you for that." Izuku looked completely shocked. Look at a healthier All Might. This was a complete change from the tiny skeleton he met that day. "Why, you look a lot better than the last time I saw you." He cursed himself for that stutter, but he was trying to remain calm. "I actually have you to thank for that, young Midoriya. After that day when you saved young Bakugo after I had reached my time and was forced to watch from the sidelines. I have to say it was an impressive display of heroism." All Might shifted in his seat a bit. "I called an old friend of mine before I went to have surgery on my lung and stomach. I have been slowly working my way back up to my current weight." Inko was stunned as she was staring at the pro hero. She had been told he was a sickly-looking skeleton after his injury years ago. But sitting in front of him was a handsome blonde. "No bad, Inko," she thought as she gave him a quick once-over. She cleared her throat and refocused her attention. Now, All Might dash. When I am like this, please call me 𝗧𝗏𝗟𝐻𝐿, 𝗧𝗏𝗟𝗟 said quickly. 𝗏𝐿 stopped for a moment before speaking again. Mr. Yagi, you said you had something you wanted to say to my son. She wanted to keep this meeting on track and keep her mind occupied. It was a bit hard for her not to keep staring at him. Yes, I did, 𝗧𝗏𝗟𝗟 said, stand up before dropping to his knees and pressing his head to the floor in a 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗧𝗟 bow. Izuku Midoryia. The day I met you I told you, I'm sorry kid, but without a quirk, you can't be a hero. That was the biggest mistake of my life. 𝗧𝗏𝗟𝗟 remained as still as a stone wall. I forgot my own humble beginnings as a boy who got his quirk came so late in life that I grew up the same as you did, quirkless. My own Master gave me a chance when no one else would. It was because of that chance that I discovered my quirk and became the hero I am today. I have been trying to focus everything in my life to be the greatest hero that could save everyone that I forgot who I was. When you saved young Bakugo that day, you showed me what a true hero was. For that, Izuku Midoryia, I beg for your forgiveness of my callous words that day. You are a true hero in my book. 𝗧𝗏𝗟𝗟 remained in the bow unmoving as he finished speaking. Izuku covered his mouth as tears ran down his face. He was not sure what to do. He had so much fear and pain from the man who was now begging for forgiveness in front of him. He heard people tell him that for months he was a hero. His mother, sisters, mentors, girlfriends, and daughter all called him a hero. Here was a man that had told him it was impossible for him. The man who destroyed his dream that day was now apologizing for his words. All Might had said that he was wrong about him. Izuku was not sure what he was supposed to do. He looked at his mother, who looked just as surprised as he did. He looked over to Nizu, who was sitting at his desk stone-faced. Mr. Yagi, please sit up, Izuku said, taking a calming breath. 𝗧𝗏𝗟𝗟 sat up to look at him. I know that you mean every word that you said here today. I know it was not easy for you to come here and beg for forgiveness for a mistake. Izuku knelt in front of him so they were on an even footing. I want to be angry at you for that day, but I can't anymore. Izuku looked over to see a confused look on both his mother's and 𝗧𝗏𝗟𝗟's face. If that day had not happened, then I may not be the person I am today. That day I was selected to become a ranger. I took what you said and used it to help me become better. I trained hard with my teachers. My mother became one of my biggest supporters and helped strengthen my bond with her. Izuku thought back to everything that had happened to him since that day. He had put in the hours of hard work to get to UA. He had a family he could count on. Friends that he had made here at UA and his girlfriends that cared for him. He was happy with how his life had turned out. A wise man once said forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. Izuku reached out to 𝗧𝗏𝗟𝗟 with a hand. I forgive you. I would like to start over with a clean slate. My name is Izuku Midoryia. Nice to meet you. 𝗧𝗏𝗟𝗟 looked at the young man in awe. He had been so wrong about this boy. David had been right. This boy could have been his successor. 𝗧𝗏𝗟𝗟 reached out and shook his hand. Pleased to meet you, young Midoryia. My name is 𝗧𝗏𝗟𝗟 Yagi. Thank you for this second chance. He looked over towards the boy's mother. You raised an amazing son, Ms. Midoryia. He gave her a big smile. 𝗏𝐿 was extremely proud of her son. It took a lot of courage to do what he did. That I have, Mr. Yagi. She looked at the man, giving him a serious glare. I will follow my son's example and we will start with a clean slate as well, but know this, I don't forgive those who throw away a second chance. 𝗧𝗏𝗟𝗟 smiled at that. I understand, ma'am. I hope to make the best of it. 𝗧𝗏𝗟𝗟 was trying not to focus on 𝗏𝐿's beauty. May I can take her out for coffee sometime? He wondered to himself. He had been struck by her beauty the first time he saw her. He had not felt this way for a long time, but that was for another day. Today was about his second chance with Izuku. Nizu sat back with a smile at Izuku. He knew that it took a lot for him to reach that maturity for a 15-year-old. He could have reacted with anger and stormed out, but he rose above his anger and fear instead of drowning in it with kindness. He was sure there would still be some awkward moment between them for a while, but that was to be expected. Beep beep, beep beep, beep beep. Izuku, I am detecting a large amount of magical energy radiating from a populated area that is matched to Fire Heart magical signature. Deku said through his communicator, breaking the mood in the room instantly. Izuku stood up quickly in surprise, since last he knew Fire Heart was still hibernating in an egg back in the command center. He had approached the egg shortly after finding it and discovered he was sleeping until the time was right for him to return. He knew he needed to act quickly if that much power was now in a public area could be dangerous. 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 dash. He started, but the principal was already a flurry of motion. Green light, Izuku. 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 said, handing him a stamped card. Go, I will gather your fellow rangers and send them to you shortly if needed. 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐦𝐴 looked over at 𝐴𝐶. How much time do you have left for the day, Mr. Yagi? About 40 minutes in total, 𝐴𝐶 replied almost instantly. He had been making sure to keep track of his time to never be a bystander again if he could help it. Good, then you will stand by here in case your presence is needed for assistance, 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐴 stated as he looked back at his student. Be safe and call when you are ready for help to arrive. Roger that, Izuku replied. He quickly hugged his mother before tapping his communicator, teleporting to the area that was detecting the magical energy. 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐴 hit the speed dial on his phone as soon as the person picked. 𝐻𝐿𝐮𝐴 spoke quickly. Show you to send me Setsuna, Ochako, Momo, and Kyoka to my office ASAP and tell them to bring Raphtalia with them. On it, boss, Shoyuta replied before ending the call. As soon as Izuku landed, he put on his visor and started scanning the area. After getting a lock on the magical signature, he started in that direction at a full sprint. The readings were starting to grow, confirming he was going in the right direction. Eri lay curled up on the floor, tired and sore after her most recent session with Kai. She rubbed the bandages on her arm and whimpered at the pain. She wanted to be free and wanted to be with someone that would take care of her. She wished with all her might. Please, someone save me, she whispered, holding herself tight. I hear you, little one. A male voice rumbled in her mind. Eri sat up quickly and looked around only to see she was still alone in her room. Who is there? She asked quickly. She was scared that one of her guards had hurt her and was about to come in to punish her. Be at ease, little one, I am here to help you. My name is Fire Heart. The voice rumbled again in a soothing tone. Do you want me to help you? Eri was scared but swallowed before speaking the words she wished for so long. Just, please save me. Her voice was a loud whisper. She had been dreaming recently of the person with green hair swooping in to rescue her. Then I will help you escape, and I have a way for the right person to find you. I know you are terrified of that man, but if you do as I say, I can help you escape his clutches. Fire Heart said gently in her head. You must be brave, little one. Eri took a deep breath. Okay. She stood up and mustered all of her courage. What do I need to do? She was willing to trust Fire Heart to get out of here if it meant that she would never have to be cut by him again. But I know you have a strong heart. Now in a moment, I will unlock the door, and when I do, I want you to open it and run to the left. I will give you instructions as needed. Fire Heart explained to her as he sent a warm feeling surrounding her. Eri relaxed as that warm feeling washed over her, helping to calm her nerves. I'm ready. Now. Fire Heart said as red sparkles surrounded the lock and it unlocked with an audible click. Eri moved quickly, throwing open the door, and darted out of the room, not bothering to look as she ran to the left with everything she had. She ignored the aching muscles as she ran down the long hallway. Right. Left. Straight. Right. Eri followed his every change of direction. Soon she reached a stairwell and hurried up the steps. It felt like an eternity before she reached the top of the stairs and tried to get the door open, but it was locked. It's locked, Eri whispered in a near panic. One moment. Fire Heart replied, wrapping her in warmth to keep her courage up. More red sparkles appeared and surrounded the door until it opened. Now run. Eri opened the door, was forced to close her eyes at the bright light. After a few moments, she could see well enough to keep running. She had run down several alleyways as she followed more of Fire Heart's instructions. Straight ahead, little one. Your savior is just up ahead. Fire Heart said in an amused rumble. Eri ran with everything she had in that direction. It was as she neared the end of the alley she saw the green-haired boy from the TV wearing a gray uniform. She never slowed down as she ran towards him. Izuku felt someone slam into his leg, almost knocking him over. He looked down to see a little girl roughly Raphtalia age in a dirty medical gown and bandages on her arms and legs that looked just as filthy. She has snow-white hair down to her waist with a small little horn on the right side of her forehead. What got his attention was the look of pure terror in her scared red eyes. "Please, help me," the girl breathed. "Please." The little girl was shaking in terror. Izuku's scanner was off the charts with magical energy that was radiating off of her. Izuku dropped down to one knee. "Okay, I'll help you. My name is Izuku. What is your name?" He had already had his morpher in hand. "Eri," she said quietly. "I don't want to go back to the bad place. Please." She was starting to shake harder. Izuku carefully and gently placed a hand on her shoulder, watching her wince slightly to his touch. "Then I will protect you." From what he could see, she was covered in the energy that matched Fireheart's signature and knew this was who he had been looking for. But she had to go this way, hurry, or the boss will make us all pay for it. Someone said around loud enough to be heard from a distance. "Eri, please stay behind me, I will take care of these guys," Izuku said, taking off his jacket and wrapping around gently around her shoulders. He had his morpher in hand ready for action. Eri looked up in awe as her hero stood tall in front of her. The wind was lightly blowing his green hair with the light radiating off of him. She cried tears of joy. "My angel came for me," Eri cried softly. She had wished for this moment for so long it felt like a dream. "That he has little one. Trust him, for he is a good and kind man. Now watch." Fireheart said, pride in his voice. "You will see something truly amazing." The magical energy that had been surrounding the girl since her escape had started to gather in front of her and coalesce to form a large red egg with scales all over it. Eri held onto it with everything she had as it made her feel warm and safe. Izuku reached up and tapped his earpiece. "Nizu, I found who we were looking for. Deku, can you teleport the others to my location, please?" "Affirmative, Izuku," Deku responded quickly. "I have some friends that are coming here in just a moment, so don't be scared when they arrive," Izuku called back to the little girl. "Don't know who you guys are, but I'd walk away while you can," he called out as at least a dozen thugs came around the corner. "We ain't scared of one little punk," one of them said, cracking their knuckles. The others in the group murmured words of agreement and started to stalk towards him. "Go Green Ranger OST," Izuku let out a sigh. "Well, I did try to warn you at least." Taking his ready stance, "It's morphing time. Dragonzord." He cracked his knuckles at this. They all seemed to hesitate with this new development. They started to back away until one of them was brave enough to rush forward. Izuku deflected the attack and drove a knee into the man's stomach, sending him backwards to the ground. "Who's next?" The others decided it was best to try and overpower him with numbers. Izuku changed up his style and let them come to him. He had created a buffer between them and Eri and was not about to let them get close to her. He redirected attacks into the group, causing chaos. He had knocked a few down when he heard Deku in his earpiece. "Help arriving in just a moment, Izuku." He smiled as held the line. As his backup teleported in, Izuku batted another thug to the ground. "Join in whenever. That girl needs protection from these guys." He turned back to a roundhouse kick to another thug's face. A few of the thugs started to laugh. "What, that is your backup, a bunch of little girls? It's against the law for them to use their quirks on us." The others started snickering. Go Power Rangers OS. "Well, then it's a good thing these aren't our quirks then," Ochako said with a smirk as readied her morpher. "Let's do it, girls. It's morphin' time. Go Samurai. Dino Thunder power up. Let's rock it. 3-3-5 enter. Dino Charger ready. Energize. Unleash the power." As they finish, another group came running out to join the fray. "Oh yeah, I needed this," Setsuna said, charging into the melee. She started to punch and kick her way through them alongside Izuku. Kyoka shrugged. "Well, if you beat him, then join." She jumped into the fray and let out some frustration on the guys in question. She launched into the air and dropped down and a couple of them before flipping back to fight beside Setsuna and Izuku. 𝐻𝐿𝐿 and Momo shook their heads as they stood next to the young girl who was watching them all with cautious eyes. Hello, I'm 𝐻𝐿𝐿 and this is Momo. Momo waved at the girl. We are friends with Izuku. We will keep you safe. 𝐻𝐿𝐿 knelt while Momo watched her back. Why you know Mr. Izuku? Eri asked quietly, still clutching the egg for courage. 𝐻𝐿𝐿 smiled under her helmet. Yes, I know him quite well. What's your name, sweetie? Eri, she said, looking at the woman in pink. Momo looked down at the girl. Hello, Eri. Her arm rested on her sword hilt as she kept the fight in her line of sight. It's nice to meet you, Eri, 𝐻𝐿𝐿 said gently. She looked up to see the last of them falling to the ground. Well, I have to say that was a little interesting, Izuku said, looking over the men on the ground looking for clues as to who they were. Deku, any match in the database? Izuku asked as he found none of them were carrying ID, just money and weapons. I have multiple matches, Izuku. All individuals I have scanned so far are a match for the Yakuza in the police database. All of them have outstanding warrants, local authorities for a plethora of heinous charges. Deku replied to all of the rangers as she continued to run faces as they went, but each one was a long-time member of the Shai Hasaikai. Those guys are still around. Setsuna asked as she looked at thugs starting to groan and trying to move around. Thought they all became extinct after All Might and the other pros took them down years ago. Kyoka shook her head. Seem that these cockroaches are still around, just going after little girls nowadays. She looked over to see Izuku coming back towards them. Anything? Izuku shook his head. Nope. Besides the facial matches I got just now. Nothing that would give a reason why nearly 24 guys were sent out here to retrieve one little girl. Izuku gestured for them to head back to the girl. He knelt in front of Eri. How are you doing, Eri? Izuku noted that she was holding Fireheart's egg tightly to her body. He decided to ask that question later about Fireheart. Right now, she needed to be reassured that she was safe. I'm fine, Mr. Izuku, Eri said softly. She looked around to see a few of the people that would guard her room on the ground. Thank you for saving me. Her voice was soft and her eyes started to glass over with more tears. Okay, now I want to go kick them while they are down, Setsuna grumbled, watching the little unicorn in front of her starting to tear up. I'll help, Kyoko said in agreement. Who would want to hurt her? She wondered to herself as she glared at the thugs on the ground. I wouldn't see anything. Momo chimed in. She was very tempted to join in as well but stopped herself. I think we should take her to see Recovery Girl just to make sure she is okay, 𝐻𝐿𝐿 said, kneeling beside Izuku. She didn't like the fact the girl was covered in dirty bandages and a hospital gown. Izuku nodded in agreement. All right, let's head back and get her dash. Izuku was cut off with the sound of someone running around the corner. He turned to look and saw another guy looking around. He was in a similar cloth to the other in the ground, but he was a bit nicer looking compared to the others. Oh, CRP, the man said, looking at his compatriots scattered across the ground. I can't let you take that girl. The man screamed at them as he reached into his jacket and tossed a black and gold card on the front. The moment the card hit the ground, a large number of batlings started to appear out of a cloud of smoke. Izuku stood up immediately. Deku, alert Nizu, we have a ranger incident with batlings. Call out for Maruko or Ryukyu to back up us ASAP and advise them we have a civilian in the area. Izuku drew his dragon dagger. Everyone, these guys demon imps. They are not very strong, but they can swarm and cause a lot of damage if they get out of this alley and into the general area. Setsuna, Momo, and Kyoka, you three are with me to keep them contained. 𝐻𝐿𝐿, you guard Eri until backup arrived, then you can join us. Roger. The girls responded together. Working in it, Izuku, Deku responded. Izuku tapped his helmet. Deku, disable safety mode. Safety mode was added by Deku, Mei, and Izuku after they determined that without a restriction on power output he could kill somebody with a kick or a punch if he was not careful. When safety mode was on, it lowers the power output for him to be able to fight regular villains. It worked with bladed weapons and blasters as well to prevent serious injuries to people. Izuku and the others dashed forward into the melee. Momo drew her spin's sword from her side before she started hacking and slashing her way through them. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 summoned her Terra daggers and followed Momo's example, started to work through them. 𝐶𝐮𝐿 summoned her raptors and started to devastate the battling ranks with her sword and their claws. Izuku slashed a few of the batlings with each slash before taking down another with a kick. They had dropped countless enemies, but they were still coming. Find the card and destroy it. Izuku called out, defecting a batling's sword that was aimed at his chest. He summoned the power sword he had Mei make for him in the forge. It was identical to the original Red Ranger's weapon, but was green and had a different logo on the hilt. Deku, what is the status of backup? Miruko and Ryukyu are just finishing up a rescue operation and will be on their way when they can. Until then, I have another ranger inbound with support. Deku responded with pride in her voice. What? Kyoko called out as she flipped a few batlings to the ground. Doesn't matter. Well, take whatever help they can give us right now. Ochako called, firing off several shots from her Astro Blaster at the few batlings that had slipped through. 2 lights teleported in, one silver and the other blue. Mei had been working in her workshop most of the day. She had been making some progress on a few projects for her school clients and a few ranger projects as well. There were a few files on her desk with a variety of titles. Project Mac Deca, Terra Venture, and a few others that were obscured from view. She had been listening in on the group's comm traffic, and when she heard Izuku say batlings, she froze in place. She had been around the command center enough to know some of the creatures from the Ranger archives. She knew they were protecting someone along with trying to fight the batlings. Deca Fox's body moved close to Mei on her desk, causing Mei to look over at her. Mei, I know you don't believe you are worthy to be a ranger, but you truly are, Deca told her from her fox body sitting on the desk near her files. You can help get that civilian out of danger and come back here immediately. You don't need to fight. Mei thought for a moment before nodding. I'll go back them up. Mei wanted to help her family, and if they could be brave, then so could she. She grabbed her files and locked them in her desk drawer. Good, Deca replied to her. The chest compartment opened and Mei's morpher was now visible. Mei took the morpher in hand. Do I need to ask the principal for permission first? Mei, you have permission now, go help the others. I have already sent a message to Power Loader. You are cleared to respond. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 said to her over the intercom near her workstation. That was easy. Mei mumbled. Deca, I think we should wake up a friend of ours to give us an extra hand. I am already on it. He will be ready to go momentarily. Deca replied to her. Time to make an entrance, Mei. Mei nodded to her metallic friend. It's morphin time. 𝐶𝐿. She was gone in a flash of blue light. Izuku looked back for a moment to see the 2 figures teleporting in. One was the blue Power Ranger and the other was Robo Knight. Thanks for the backup. He called out, taking down another batling before performing a spin kick on another. Anytime, Zuzu. The Blue Ranger called, waving at them. Wait, Mei. Ochako called out, looking at their friend. How? Later, Ochako, Mei said as she drew Power Blaster and helped her drop a few of the batlings. Hi, their little one. My name is Mei and I am here to take you somewhere safe. Mei knelt down, gesturing for Eri to come towards her with an open arm. If Mr. Izuku is okay with it. Eri said, staring in awe at Robo Knight and Mei. She clutched the egg a bit tighter. I trust Mei with my life, Eri, Izuku called out to the girl as he flipped a batling away from him. She will keep you safe until I get there to see you. I promise. Okay, Eri replied, looked at Mei. I'll go with you. She clutched the egg as she moved towards Mei. Mei quickly scooped the young girl in her free arm and held her close. Robo Knight, can you stay and help them out? Affirmative, ma'am. Robo Knight responded as he summoned his Robo Blaster to his hand. I will assist the other rangers in handling this threat. Robo Knight started to walk forward, slowly taking precise shots to take the batlings down one by one. Deca, teleport us out, please, Mei called out as she teleported with Eri and the eggs safely away. All right, everyone, with Eri safe, we can go to work. I can see that card, let's finish this. Momo said, sending a wave of fire from her spin sword into the batlings, taking out some more of them. On it. Ochako said, darting into the opening Momo had just created by summoning her satellite stunner to her free hand and started blasting her was towards the card with both weapons. Let's clear a path for her ladies, Izuku said, clearing a few more of them out her way for her. Kyoka and Setsuna followed suit. Ochako was able to see the card and well enough to fire off several shots from her Astro Blaster that destroyed that card, causing the battling to vanish into puffs of black smoke. Nice shooting there, Ochako. Izuku gave her a thumbs up. After sheathing his dagger, Ochako holstered her Astro Blaster. It was a team effort. She moved closer with the others. Thank you for your assistance. It was Robo Knight. She was wanting to make sure she was calling him by the correct name. That is affirmative, ma'am. Robo Knight turned his head towards her. I was glad to be of service. I have been deactivated for a long time. I was being updated with current events by Deku and was correcting some old issues with my operating systems. He stood stone still and arm relaxed at his side. Still, we appreciate the assist, Izuku said, looking at the guy that threw the card. Now I have a few questions for you. Izuku started to walk away from the man who was sweating bullets as he backed away towards the wall. Where did you get that card? I can dash. That was all the man said before a hand came around the corner and grabbed his face, causing him to scream in terror before he exploded, leaving behind a pool of blood and gore. Oh, God, Momo said, bringing her free hand to her helmet as her other hand tightened on her sword. Jesus. Kyoka said, turn her head slightly away from the scene in front of her. That is messed up, Setsuna said, tightening her grip on her sword. Make a subtle hand gesture for her raptors to make ready for another fight. I think I am going to be sick, Ochako mumbled. Thanking whatever deity she could think of at that moment. Eri was not here to see what just happened. She was prepared to fire off her satellite stunner if he made a move towards them. What just happened? Izuku asked as a man wearing a bird mask walked around the corner, wiped the blood off his hands. Before Izuku could ask, he got a message from Deku into their earpiece. Izuku, that is Kai Chisaki, aka overhaul leader of the Shai Hasaikai. Her voice was urgent in his ear. Stand by for instructions from Nizu. Those idiots had one job: guard a child, and they couldn't even do that right. Where is Eri? Overhaul asked in an angry voice. He looked around and noted that she was not around. He pulled another wipe from his pocket to finish cleaning his hands. Why do you care? Izuku asked, trying to figure out Overhaul. Izuku's hand fell towards the handle of his dagger. Overhaul snapped his fingers and 3 more men came around the corner. None of your business of what I want with that brat. She belongs to me. He was preparing for a quick fight. He had seen them on the news battling that idiot hulking, but they were nothing special as far as he was concerned. I am not afraid of the 6 children playing hero. So, tell me what I want and I may grant you all a merciful death. Teleport back now. Nizu is ordering you all back to UA immediately. Deku said quickly to all of the rangers. Maybe another time, Overhaul. I am sure we will meet again someday. Izuku said as he took a step back to stand with his team. They teleported out in a variety of colors back to UA. Overhaul watched the interlopers leave the alleyway. He let out a scream of rage at the loss of Eri. He cared nothing for the girl except the need for her blood to create his cure for the world. He was close to a breakthrough but needed more time before he could perfect it. Now he was back to square one and it would take him too much time to start over. He needed to find Eri and finish his cure. The future of the Yakuza depended on his success. He looked at the fools that failed him lying on the ground. He decided to start cleaning his house and get better members in the future. He walked towards the one closest to him. Overhaul reached down to touch him. When it was all over, the alleyway looked like a massacre from the top-rated R movie. Overhaul wiped his hands again with a disinfectant cloth and turned to walk away from his handiwork. I need a meeting with the Queen as soon as possible. Overhaul grumbled as they headed to another base to get his research restarted immediately. Tell her I am willing to make another deal with her. As his lieutenant made the call, Overhaul vowed vengeance for those who had just crossed him. As he was so close to a breakthrough in his research, it was frustrating. He had made a deal with the Queen before and it worked well for him despite the steep price. Now he needed to make another deal, and this time he didn't care what it cost him. Purge the site here of everything. Leave nothing behind but ashes. Burn the whole building to the ground if you need to. Izuku and the girls arrived back in Nizu's office, still in their ranger forms. After they powered down, they were each hugged by 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘, who had been waiting in the office for their safe return. All Might had resumed his buffed appearance before they had all returned to keep his appearance a secret from the girls for now. Robo Knight went off to stand against the wall to observe them. They were all debriefed on what had happened from the Izuku first contact with Eri to their group encounter with Overhaul. 𝐻𝐿 was sure Izuku would give him a full detailed analysis during their class tomorrow. We will start an in-depth investigation into what Overhaul has been up to with that battling card that was in the Yakuza possession and what his plans were for young Eri that made her such a valuable part of his future plans. 𝐻𝐿 turned to the girls sitting beside Izuku. I want to say I am proud of how well you girls did today. You have done a great service to the school and to the young girl you helped save from Overhaul. 𝐻𝐿 was beaming with pride at his student. He could tell that this year's group of students was very special. Thank you, sir, Ochako said, bowing her head in respect towards the principal. Where is Eri right now? Ochako really wanted to go check on Eri after seeing how scared she was earlier. She wanted to go hug the little unicorn and make her feel safe again. 𝐻𝐿 gave her a sad smile. She is currently with Miss Hatsum in the nurse's office with Recovery Girl. She starts to panic every time Recovery Girl tries to get close to try and take a look under her bandages. 𝐻𝐿 leaned back in his chair. She keeps asking for Mr. Izuku and the nice ladies in the pink and red suits. He smirked as he watched Izuku, Momo, and Ochako flush a bit. We are hoping she may calm down enough to let Recover Girl at least change her bandages if you three are in the room with her. Oh, Mr. Izuku. She wants to see her big hero. Setsuna teased him slightly as she moved close and threw her arm around his shoulder and rested her chin on the other. She knew he had a big heart and a lot of compassion. Sounds like we need to go down there to check on the little unicorn right away. Aizu. Well, I guess that makes sense. Kyoka chimed into the conversation. He was the first to find her and did get her back here safely. She started twirling one of her jacks thinking about Eri. Kyoka had another thought. So what is the story with the red egg she was clutching to her chest? Izuku noticed that everyone was looking at him. Well, that is Fireheart. Izuku told them the story behind him and even had Decapatch in archive video records of the large metal dragon in action. Last I knew he was still hibernating, waiting for the proper time for his return. Izuku looked around to see they were all looking at him incredulously. Setsuna blinked a few times. So you are telling me that a sentient magical fire-breathing dragon summoned itself out of the command center to protect little Eri. She reached up and pinched her cheek before shaking her head. Nope, not a dream. What is my life anymore? Momo leaned back and crossed her arms. I would like to go see Eri and check on her as well. She was glad to hear that she was asked for. I would also like to examine the egg if Eri is okay with it. She was very curious about the egg, but she was not about to upset a scared child. Then it is settled then. You all can head down to see young Eri while I finish talking to All Might and Robo Knight. 𝐻𝐿 said, dismissing the children. Izuku, I will see you tomorrow during our class time to go over everything with you. 𝐻𝐿 decided that it was time for them to accelerate their plans even further. Izuku nodded to his mentor. I look forward to it, sir. He looked over to his mother and 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘. Are you two wanting to come with us? He asked as he was heading for the door. 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 nodded to her son. I need to get back to the nurse's office anyway, and 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 had school work that needs to be looked over as well. 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 was wanted to go see this girl for herself and get the paperwork started to save another scared child from the foster system. 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 started pouting. I want to see her too. I want to see my little sister. She crossed her arm and her tail was swinging back and forth quickly. I've been a good girl with my schoolwork. I want to talk with my new sister, please. She started making puppy dog eyes. Izuku started choking on air. Wait, your little sister. Izuku looked at his daughter with a very confused look on his face. 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 nodded quickly. Yeah. Papa saved me and adopted me. You saved her too, so I get to be a big sister now. It was laid out in very simple logic that made sense to the young Tanuki. 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 started to chuckle at her granddaughter's logic. The others girls laughed a bit at Izuku's expense. Well, it looks like you are a father of two now, Izuku, Momo said, covering her mouth to hide her smile at his surprise. Looks like 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 has decided on it for you. Well, I can see it. He is really good with 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟, and she seemed a lot happier since coming to be a part of the Midoriya family. Kyoko added as she was smirking at the scene unfolding in front of her. Setsuna smirked at Izuku. Well, Eri is adorable and 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 is so freaking adorable as well. Where do you keep finding them, Izu? She separated her hands to mess with his fluffy ponytail. Izuku playfully rolled his eyes at her. It must be my secret quirk to attraction adorable and cute things to me. He looked at his girlfriends with a smile. I mean, I did attract all you adorable and cute girls to me somehow. He was doing his best not to blush at his flirting. Ochako blush almost went atomic before she turned to the other girls, mumbling. The worst part is I can't tell if he did that on purpose or if he's accidentally flirting with us again. Kyoka nodded as she blushed as well. I can't tell, but he is getting better at it either way. She started doing her nervous tick of Tapper the Jack together. Okay, that was a good one. Setsuna had to admit. Momo cleared her throat, a light blush on her cheeks. Let's get going to see Eri. Momo gestured for them to start walking to change the subject quickly. Inko walked behind them as she watched her son reach down to pick up 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟, who was still trying to get Izuku to say Eri was her new little sister. She watched her son as his resolve was starting to wane ever so slightly. She knew her son had a good heart and was sure she would be getting another granddaughter very soon. While Izuku and the others were heading to check up on Eri, Nizu was having a serious discussion in his office. Did the detective find anything at the scene, Toshinori? He asked as he watched the number 1 hero hang up the phone with a solemn expression on his face. That bad? Toshinori nodded his head. Yes. Naomasa arrived with a dozen officers at the location I sent him. He leaned back in his chair and pinched the bridge of his nose. He said it was like a scene from a horror movie in the alleyway. BLD everywhere, and they have to wait for DNA testing to come back to know who was in the alley. Toshinori opened up a few pictures he was sent. Several builds were burning as well. Backdraft and few other heroes are battling the fires as we speak. Nizu's face grew serious. He punished them for letting little Eri escape from his clutches, Nizu said as he folded his hand in front of him. He is cleaning house now. Toshinori nodded to the principal. That is what I am thinking as well, sir. We may want to increase our security on campus just in case he finds out she is here and comes to try and take her back. Toshinori was confident he would be able to take Overhaul in a fight, but he was sure that Overhaul would cause a lot of death and destruction in the process. He wanted to avoid dragging any students into that kind of confrontation with Overhaul if it was possible. Nizu smiled at the old pro. I would feel a great swell of pity for anyone who comes to my school looking for trouble or to try taking that little girl away from Izuku Midoryia and his family. Nizu knew that Izuku was a kind soul, but he would be a formidable opponent when it comes to anyone who would cause harm to his family. His family would respond just as fiercely as he would. Robo Knight, would you be interested in helping out around the campus here protecting the students unless you are called away on other business? Nizu looked to the robotic knight standing against his wall. I would be honored to help protect your students, sir. Robo Knight said with a nod of his head before moving to stand in front of Nizu. I have a few recommendations to make for additional security personnel that may be of service to help keep the students safe. Nizu leaned back in his chair with a large smile on his face. I would like to hear your suggestions, Robo Knight. He tapped a button on his desk. Deka, I believe we will require your services as well. How may I be of service, Nizu? Deka asked from the speaker at the desk. Toshinori was not sure about the smile on the principal's face, but he knew more chaos was about to come to the UA campus. He almost felt sorry for anyone wanting to mess with the school or Nizu's personal student. Almost anyway. Izuku and the other arrived outside the office a short time later. It was decided that Izuku, Ochako, and Momo would enter first, and if she felt comfortable have the other come into the room. 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 frowned at this, but after Setsuna took her for Izuku she was content to for the time being. Izuku knocked gently on the door. May. It's Izuku. He waited for a moment. Come on in, Zuzu. Came May muffled reply. Izuku slowly entered the room and Momo closed the door behind her. The room had 3 beds with curtains for each bed. The last bed curtain was partly pulled to block the view of the bed. Izuku moved very slowly around the curtain and watched as Eri seemed to relax at the sight of him. "Hey, Eri, I came here just like I promised." He looked over to see Mei was sitting in a chair near the bed. "Thank you for getting her back safely, Mei." "Oh, it was no problem, Zuzu. Glad I was able to help you guys out." Mei smiled, had a small notebook in her hand and pencils sketching something out. "I may not be much of a fighter, but I would help you guys out again wherever I can." "It was very much appreciated for your assistance, Mei," Momo said, smiling at the tech genius. "You will have to fill us in later on when you got Morpher." Momo moved to Izuku's left shoulder and looked at the little unicorn. "Hey, Eri. I heard you wanted to see Izuku, Ochako, and myself." Ochako mirrored Momo's action and moved behind Izuku's other shoulder. "Hey, Eri," Ochako said, waving at her. "I wanted to come to see how you were doing." She liked how the girl's eyes lit up at them being there. Izuku pointed to the bed. "Can we sit down here with you?" When she gave him a nod, Izuku took a seat on the edge of the bed. Ochako took a chair next to her. Momo sat on the other side of the bed close to Mei. "Are you thirsty or hungry?" he asked her, wanting to ease her into talking. Eri seemed to think for a moment before asking. "See, can I have an apple, please?" Izuku smiled at her request. "I am sure we can find some apples for you." Izuku got up to find some when Mei stood up, gesturing for him to stay seated. "I'll ask if the nurse has one." "Stay with her." Mei waved at Eri. "Be right back." She disappeared around the curtain towards the private office. The next few minutes were the trio talked with Eri about simple things to try and get her a bit more comfortable with Olive. When Mei came back with a plate of sliced apples, the girl's eyes sparkled with happiness. Mei also places a glass of water on the table next to her bed. Eri happily munched on the apples, practically inhaling them. "I can see your favorite food is apples," Izuku said with a slight chuckle. "How about in a bit we will get you some more food and apples for dessert, okay?" He wanted to get her to eat a bit of real food, with apples being a bonus in the end. "Okay, Mr. Izuku," Eri said, taking another sip of her water. Izuku smiled at her. "You can just call me Izuku if you want." "Eri, sweetheart," Momo said, giving her a very gentle smile. "We heard you got upset when the nurse came to check up on you. Is there a reason why?" Momo had placed her open hand near the girl, offering it to her if she wanted to hold it. Eri seemed to retreat a bit in the bed. She was wearing a white coat as she does. Eri hugged the egg slightly as she spoke. "I was afraid she was going to hurt me." Eri closed her eyes at thinking about her time with Kai. "Oh, Eri," Ochako said slowly and gently, patting the girl's head. Eri seemed to stiffen for a moment before leaning into her hand. "She is very nice. She would never purposely hurt you." Ochako was restraining herself from pulling the girl into a big hug too soon. "How about we sit in here with you as she changes your bandages, okay?" Eri nodded and said very softly, "Okay." Izuku went and got Recovery Girl, telling the white coat had been what scared her earlier. She left her coat in the room and came back into the room with a tray of bandages and tape. "Okay, dearie. I am going to take these off nice and slow, okay?" Recovery Girl Work had asked Momo to scoot back slightly for her to work. Mei had taken a standing position near the curtain, giving the small girl a thumbs up in support. Recovery Girl was true to her word as she slowly took her bandages off. She noticed the bandages went to her shoulder. The more bandages she removed, the more her scars became visible. Momo, Ochako, and Izuku looked horrified to see the scars on her arms. Her legs were not any better as they had even more scars on them. Mei covered her mouth and stepped back to catch her breath. Eri never looked up the entire time. Her eyes remained on the bed in front of her. "Thank you, Eri, for letting me remove them," Recover Girl said gently. She took some water and gently cleaned each limb very carefully and was about to put on new bandages when Izuku stopped her. "Eri, can you look at me, please?" Izuku asked her very gently, taking her small hand into his. When she looked up at him with sad eyes, he held her hand a bit tighter. "If I had a way to get rid of all of your scars, would you like me to do that for you?" His voice was soft but on the edge of breaking. Eri's eyes went large and she gasped. Really? She gripped his hand tightly. She saw him nod his head yes to her question. Yes, please make them go away. She said a bit loud as she wanted all the scars caused by Kai off of her. Izuku tapped his watch. Deku, can you teleport B the 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 medkit and 2 vials of the 𝐀𝐮∨ SR cream please? A moment later she responded. Affirmative. Izuku teleporting requested items in now. Deku responded over his communicator. Eri looked amazed when a small red box and 2 metal containers appeared at the foot of her bed. Who was that, Izuku? Eri asked, looking around for where the voice came from. Izuku smiled at her. That was Deku. She is a friend and I will introduce you to her someday. Izuku reached over and grabbed everything on the foot of the bed. He opened the case and took out a silver item the size and shape of a pen. He tapped a button on the side of it and a tiny blue ball formed at the tip. He thumbed it off before opening one of the metal containers to have a white lotion-like substance that gave off a flowery scent. He took a small dab of the SR cream and wiped it onto one of her scars. Then he took the silver cylinder and turned it back on. This may feel a little cold for a few seconds, okay? Izuku waited for her to nod and touched the blue sphere against the cream for the length of the scar before pulling it back. He set it back down and took a small cloth from the kit and wiped away the cream to reveal the scar was completely gone. Everyone in the room gasped in surprise to see the scar completely gone. Eri ran a finger over her now perfectly smooth skin. Would you like me to continue? Izuku asked her, waiting for her response. She nodded even faster than before. Okay, then I will have Momo put the cream on, and after I treated each scar with my applicator, would it be okay to have Ochako wipe off the excess? Okay. Eri said quickly. Izuku, Ochako, and Momo went to work, and within about 20 minutes every single scar on her arms and legs were gone. The 3 of them watched with a smile as Eri ran her hands over the now scar-free arms and legs. Eri, I am going to set outside the curtain for a few minutes so Momo and Ochako look for any more scars, okay? Okay, Izuku, Eri said, looked at the 2 girls. Thank you for doing the Mo and Okakeo. She tried to pronounce their names for the first time. Both girls giggled at her attempts and told her the proper way to say their names. Izuku stepped around the corner and started to cry quietly as possible from what he had seen on Eri's arms and legs. Mei wrapped him in a hug immediately and whispered words of comfort in his ear. Izuku clung to her as a lifeline as he tried to calm down. It was about 10 minutes before they called him back behind the curtain. Momo and Ochako looked just as upset about what was under her gown. The only one who seemed happy at the moment was Eri. She wasn't smiling, but her eyes were much brighter. As soon as Eri saw him, she launched into his chest crying and thanking him over and over again. Izuku hugged her tight to his chest and comforted her. Momo and Ochako came over to join in on the hug. Mei hesitated for a minute before Izuku gestured for her to join in. After she calmed down a bit, Izuku asked Momo to make her a change of clothes to get her out of the ratty old gown. Momo created a simple white shirt and blue briefs. Izuku stepped away long enough for her to get dressed. After returning again, he asked her, Eri, I have a few people outside that would like to meet you. Would you be okay with it? Izuku wanted her to set the pace of people coming into her room. Are they nice? Eri asked as she climbed back onto her bed and started to hug the egg again. Izuku walked over and patted her head. Yes, I know all of them, and one of them is my mom, who is extremely nice. He watched her have a bit of a sad look in her eyes when he mentioned his mom. They are all nice and one of them is your age. He was hoping 𝐻𝗃𝐾 would be on her best behavior. Eri seemed to think for a few minutes. Okay, if you say they are nice then that is okay. Eri hugged her egg a bit. If you feel uncomfortable at any point, let me know. Izuku watched her nod her head. Hey, Kyoka, you can bring everyone in now, just come in slowly. He knew she had been listening in just in case. A few moments later the door opened and in came Setsuna, Kyoka, 𝐻𝗃𝐾, and Inko. Kyoko made beeline for him and pulled him into a hug. He returned the hug with a thanks. He knew she had heard him crying with Mei. Inko moved around the curtain, keeping her distance, giving Eri a wave. 𝐻𝗃𝐾 had been on Setsuna's hip looking at Eri until she wiggled enough to get down on the floor. And walked over to Eri. Hi, My name is 𝐬𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘. The tanuki said with a big smile on her face. You must be Eri, right? She waved at the unicorn. Why my name is Eri? She answered a little shyly. Nice to meet to 𝐬𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘. Eri tried to pronounce it a few times before she was stopped by the other girl. How about you call me Raf for now? 𝐬𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 suggested after watching Eri struggle with her name. Eri nodded at that. Okay, Raf. She loosened her grip on the egg a bit as she got a bit more comfortable with the other girl. For a few moments, both looked at each other mirroring the other's actions. Eventually, 𝐬𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 climbed on the bed and sat across from and asked for her backpack. When 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 handed it to her, she took out a box of crayons and a few coloring books and offered to share them with Eri. Eri was not sure what to do at first until she watched 𝐬𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 start to color a picture in the book. 𝐬𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 told her to use whatever colors she wanted and showed her what she had colored so far. Eventually, the two of them were sitting side by side with the egg in between them. The longer they talked and colored together, the more Eri relaxed. Izuku moved back to fill in Setsuna, Kyoka, and Inko about what they had witnessed during their time with Eri and how many scars she had over her body. Recovery Girl added in that those cuts were made by someone with surgical skills and this had been going on for quite some time. She told them she had taken pictures discreetly of Eri's scars for her official report on the girl's treatment. Setsuna was trying to take controlled breaths to calm herself before she exploded and scared the girl. She wanted nothing more than to have 5 minutes with the guy in a locked room and a sock full of batteries. Kyoka was of two emotions at the moment. Anger at Overhaul for doing that to Eri and sadness for what the poor girl had gone through that much for who knows how long. She now understood why her boyfriend had broken down and cried a little while ago. Inko pulled her son into a tight hug and kissed his forehead. She knew the world was an ugly place, but she hoped there would be a few more years at least before Izuku would have to see something like that. After letting him go, she moved over and hugged Mei, who seemed to be struggling with what she had seen as well. Inko grabbed her phone and sent a message to Nizu. Her decision was made. Eventually, the two of them were talking when 𝐬𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 called out to Izuku. Hey Papa, is Eri coming home with us tonight? She started giving him the puppy dog eyes to get her way. Izuku gave his daughter a shrug. I'm not sure about that, 𝐬𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘. That would be up to your grandma and Nizu if she can leave the campus. Izuku pointed over to Inko. Eri looked on confused at Izuku and 𝐬𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘. What's a papa? Oh, a papa is someone who takes care of you and makes you smile. 𝐬𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 smiled brightly as she pointed to Izuku. Papa takes care of me with grandma and I got mamas and aunties to take care of me now too. I don't remember my papa, Eri said sadly. I think I had a mama, but she said I was cursed. Eri started to withdraw a bit from the group. What is that, sweetie? Chaco asked. You seem like an adorable little unicorn to me. She moved close and pulled the young girl into a gentle hug. Everyone says my quirk is a curse. I make things and people disappear. Eri said quietly. She hugged Ochako tighter as she looked down at the bed again. Izuku moved close and sat on the bed close to Ochako and took a finger to lift her chin to look at his face. I don't know what your quirk is at the moment, but I'm sure it is a gift that makes you special. Izuku ran his fingers through her hair like had done with 𝐬𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 in the past. Your quirk is part of you. Izuku watched her look in awe of him. I will help you with your quirk when you are ready. Do you promise? Eri asked, her eyes begin him to say yes. Izuku leaned down and hugged her. I promise, Eri. He leaned back a bit. When you are ready, tell me and we will get started together. Okay, Eri said, starting to come back out of her shell again. Izuku looked back at Mei. Do you have one of the pendants ready to go yet? Izuku and Mei had been working on something for 𝐬𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 just in case her quirk started growing faster than she could control it. Mei rolled her eyes at him and patted a few of her pockets before she pulled something out of her pocket. Please, that was child's play considering the variety of projects I am working on. She tossed it to Izuku, who snatched it out of the air. I was going to bring it up to have 𝐬𝗚𝗧𝗟𝗘 try it out, but I think I can make a few spares later. Izuku held a simple silver pendant in front of Eri. Until you are ready. As long as you wear this pendant, it will suppress your quirk. He slowly reached over and placed it around her neck. It hung down to the middle of her chest. Eri looked at the pendant with awe. I won't make things disappear, she asked, clutching the pendant in her hands. No making things disappear. The pendant will suppress it. Izuku reassured Eri as she latched onto Ochako, crying slightly. Ochako gave her a tight hug as Izuku mirrored her in giving her a tight hug from the other side. They stay that way for a few minutes until Eri calmed down. It's okay, sweetie. We are all here for you. The room was starting to fall into silence as everyone was smiling at the sight in front of them. Raphtalia was tired of all the serious talk. Hey, stop hogging my little sister, she called out as pulled Eri out of their grasps and into her arms, hugging her side. Sister? Eri asked, looking at Raphtalia curiously. Raphtalia nodded at her. Yep. I got rescued by Papa first, so I am the big sister, and that makes you my little sister. She made sure to emphasize the word my. She puffed out her chest with pride. Izuku's face bombed at his daughter's words. Raphtalia. The rest of the room started snickering at the scene in front of them. The room froze when they hear a loud growl from Eri. When everyone turned to look at her, Eri flushed with embarrassment, clutching her stomach. I'm sorry. Momo moved over and gently patted the girl's lap. It's okay, sweetie. There's nothing wrong with being hungry. Momo looked at her watch, noting it was getting late in the day. How about we go to the cafeteria and have lunch? Rush fix you something to eat. Recovery girl nodded her head. I think a hot meal would do her some good. How about tomorrow morning during homeroom I will give her a checkup with Mr. Midoryia here to keep her calm. She decided that the girl needed a break after having her scars removed. 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 got an idea on how to kill a few birds with one stone. Well, Raphtalia needs a checkup as well. That way she can help keep her little sister company. 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 knew she was being underhanded with that tactic, but as a parent, she knew sometimes it was needed. Now I just need to get one more bird, she thought to herself. Fine. Raphtalia grimaced. I'll do it with Eri. Izuku noted his daughter's unhappiness about having a medical checkup and decided to bite the bullet. He was going to be there anyway for Eri. How about all three of us get a checkup together with Recovery Girl? 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 smirked. Hook, line and sinker. After getting the next day's plans taken care of, 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 decided to stay behind and go over some paperwork with Recovery Girl. She told them to go have a good meal and come back afterward. Eri said she was a bit cold and needed some shoes. Raphtalia went to grab a spare pair of her shoes from the bag 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 brought with them. Then she grabbed her extra hoodie as well. No one was surprised to see Raphtalia wear her mystic red hoodie and gave Eri the Green Ranger hoodie to wear. Ochako and Momo could not suppress their squeal at the adorable sight and took a few quick pictures. Mei, Setsuna, and Kyoka smiled at the adorable sight but were able to control themselves. 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 had convinced Eri to leave Fireheart's egg with her for safekeeping. They assured her it would be here in the office after she had something to eat. After getting both girls taken care of, they headed towards the cafeteria. Eri shyly asked for Momo to carry her. Momo scooped her up without a moment's hesitation to carry her on her hip. Eri waved at Ochako, who moved closer to her. Raphtalia asked Setsuna to carry her. Setsuna picked her up and set her on her shoulders. Izuku walked in between Mei and Kyoka. Izuku couldn't help but smile at the little family walking together. He realized that he already thought of the girl as family. He was not going to do anything about it today besides make sure they can take her home for the night. He wanted Eri to set the pace. They were almost to the cafeteria when he heard someone exclaim behind him. OMG! Another cutie! OMG! Chibi! Izuku closed his eyes. He knew that one of the voices belonged to Mina. He turned around and looked back to see Mina, Toru, Pony, Kirishima, Fumikage, Tsu, Tetsu, Ibara, Hitoshi, Kaminari, and Itsuka looking at them with various expressions on their faces from confusion to excitement. Oh, hey guys, Izuku said, moving in front of Eri, unsure how she would react to new people. How was the rest of battle training for Class 1B? Anything exciting happen after we left? Mina shook her head at him. Oh no, you're not changing the subject. First, you leave after beating the blonde douchebag number 2 after being asked there by the principal. Mina flipped out a finger. Then those four get called out to the principal's office taking the cutie with them. She ticked off another finger. Now you have a new cutie with you. Come on, spill. Mina begged them, ticking off another finger. Izuku looked back at his girlfriends that gave him a shrug. Alright, follow up to the cafeteria and I will fill you guys in as best I can, but here are the ground rules. After Izuku laid down the law about upsetting Eri and not to rush towards her or hug her unless she said it was okay. Everyone went to the largest table to sit down. Ochako went and got something simple for 𝗏𝗡𝗡 and Eri. Izuku had pulled 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 aside, telling him Eri may be a bit afraid since he resembled the bird mask and not to take it personally. 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗃 understood, and after hearing she liked apples from Izuku, went to get a couple. After Ochako got the trays of food, she put Eri in between her and Momo. 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗡 went over to eat with Setsuna and Mei. Kyoka sat near Izuku and had an ear jack aimed near Eri just in case. Pony, Toru, and Mina sat close to Eri and 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗡 waving at them, while the other filled in around the table. I cannot tell you everything at the moment, but I can tell you the basics for right now, Izuku said. He told them about being called away on ranger business. While he was out, he found Eri in need of help. He called the others to help him get her to safety. He told them that she had been mistreated by bad people and brought her back to UA. He did not mention her scars or her quirk since he wanted Eri to come to terms with those first. Even when he gave them the cliff notes, it had a profound effect on the group. Itoshi, Kaminari, Kirishima, and Tetsu were gripping their fists in anger. 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗃 was frowning as he was whispering something with dark shadow. Ibra was in the midst of a prayer for the poor girl as she clutched a rosary in her hands. Itsuka was taking nice and easy breaths to prevent herself from accidentally breaking the table as she gripped it very tightly. Mina, Toru, and Pony were in tears for the poor girl, and it took them a few minutes to calm themselves. Eri had been eating her first hot meal in a long time. It was simple beef rice, but to her, it was the best meal ever. She had finished her plate when looked for an apple for dessert. She was almost disappointed when 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗃 called down to her. Hey Eri, I have a spare apple here if you want one. 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗃 said softly as he gave her a gentle smile and held the apple in front of him to show it to her. Fumi and Dark Shadow decided that they would let her make the first move. Eri seemed to hesitate at first, almost mistaking him for of the men from the bad place. But he had kept his distance and was offering her an apple. Normal they would toss them at her. She nodded her head slowly and watched as he handed it down the table to her, making sure not to make any sudden moves. She took a bit of the apple and after she swallowed. Thank you, mister, just call me Fumi, 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗃 replied to her, smiling a bit more. Dark Shadow watched her take a bit of the apple. Okay, that was adorable to watch, Fumi. Mina teased the normally brooding crow. She grinned even more than 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗃 sent her an annoyed glare. Pony looked over at Eri. Eri, can I please hug you? She spoke slowly in Japanese, making sure not to mix up the words. She made the universal gesture for a hug. She was looking over at her friends to make sure she was speaking properly. One horn buddy to another. Pony gestured towards the horns on her head. Eri looked at Ochako and Momo for what to do. When they gave her a nod that it was okay. Eri looked back to Pony. Yes, a hug would be okay. Eri stood up from her seat, waited for Pony to come around slowly and give her a small hug. Thank you, Eri, Pony said before smiling at her. If need hug, I am always available. She missed a few words near the end. Eri, can I hug you too? Mina said, a bit more subdued than her normal self. When Eri gave her permission, Mina followed Pony's example of moving slowly and keeping the hug small. Pony is right. Us horn buddies need to stick together. Toru asked soon after, and when Eri gave her permission. If you ever need a hug, Eri, I am always available to do so too. Toru knew what it was like to need a hug. Hey, I want hugs too. 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗃 called out, jumping up, rushing to Mina, Toru, and Pony. I want hugs from you guys now. She opened her arms, waiting for them. The trio giggled and quickly hugged the girl, making her squeal with delight. Izuku chuckled at his daughter's antics. Leave it to 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗃 to tame people with her cuteness. He watched them fawn over the two girls. It made him smile to see them happy. 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗃 was all smiles. Eri had yet to smile, but she was relaxing and had a look of awe on her face. I guess when I get home tonight I will have to see if any of 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗃's clothes will fit Eri. Mina stopped what she was doing and looked at Izuku. Sounds like you need a shopping trip for Eri. She started to look at the other girls to see if they were on board with that idea. Why don't we all go shopping after school? Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Toru said, getting excited about going shopping with the cuties. Pony nodded along. I would like to go with. Pony said before switching to English. I would like to help shop for Eri. Pony was looking forward to doing some with her new friends. I don't know, Izuku said. Let me message my mom and see what she thinks. Izuku sent a message to his mother asking if Eri was coming home with them and that his classmates were wanting to take Eri cloth shopping. He was about to put his phone away when his mother sent him a message back. I talked with Nizu. We have custody of Eri at this time, and I think it would be a good idea to get Eri some clothing for now. When we have full custody, we can shop for other things for her. Go get what Eri needs. Text me when you are on your way home. Oh, before I forget, Rumi, Ryuko, and you are going to meet you at the mall just in case someone comes after Eri. Let Eri know I will bring her egg home with me. Love you. Well, Mom says we have custody of Eri for now and that a trip to the mall for clothes shopping would not be a bad idea. 3 of my sisters will be there to make sure no one gives us any trouble and to bring her back to our apartment. Izuku told them as he put his phone away. He heard 𝗧𝗚𝗧𝗟 cheer that Eri was coming home with them. Who is coming with us? The other guys in the group heard the word shopping and they each started to bow out as quickly as possible. Kirishima bowed out saying he had some training to get done tonight and left to head home. Waved at Eri before moving to the door in a quick pack. Tetsu said he had to get home to train as well and would see Pony later. He hurried towards the door at a brisk pace. Kaminari said he had to go straight home to help his mom with something and would not be able to go. He left quickly as well. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 had to get home for training with his dad. He bowed towards them and started walking to the door. Dark Shadow was whispering for him to walk faster. Tsu had to go pick up her siblings from school but told them another time she would love to tag along. Hitoshi said he had to get back to the apartment to meet his girlfriend after school. He bowed out, walking towards the door like a normal person. Ibra and Itsuka already had plans for after school today and had to bow out as well. Both said another time they would love to go. Mina, Toru, and Pony quickly agreed to go shopping. Izuku and his girlfriends were all set to go when Mei's phone started to ring. "Yeah, be right there. Bye." Mei put away her phone. "Sorry, girls, I gotta head down to the support room. I am meeting Melissa Shield down there to work on some new project of hers." Izuku nodded at her. He knew she would not pass up a chance to build something with Melissa's background of inventing by going shopping. "Okay, go have some fun, Mei, and please don't blow anything up." Mei waved it off as she headed off. "I make no promises, Zuzu." Izuku shook his head. "All right, let me go grab a quick shower and get changed and we can head off." Izuku looked over at 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. "I will be right back, please behave." He looked over at Eri. "I will be right back. Will you be okay to stay with them?" Eri moved a bit closer to Momo and Ochako before nodding. "I'll be okay. Hurry back, please." Izuku smiled at her and headed off to get changed as fast as possible. Izuku hurried through a shower and changed before heading back to meet back up with the girls. When he got back, it was time for the ride to arrive for the mall. As they all got into the car, Izuku recognized the driver from before who counted the girls climbing into the car. "Kid, you do realize you are going to the mall with 7 teenagers and 2 little girls? I thought you learned your lesson from the last time you went shopping." The driver joked with him. Izuku snorted. "3 of my sisters are meeting us there as well," Izuku said, moving to get in the car. "I guess I am a glutton for punishment." Before getting in the car, the driver closed the door and shook his head. "That is a very brave or foolish boy." The ride over was interesting with the addition of Mina and Toru. They were a ball of energy as they rode in the limo to the mall. Pony joined in on the fun when she started tickling 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 that had her laughing. Eri seemed unsure what to do, sitting in between Ochako and Momo. Momo pulled up a children's book on her phone and started reading to her. Ochako and Kyoka joined in with making some voices as they read. Izuku looked over to see Setsuna talking with Mina as she separated her hands and started to tickle 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 with Pony. When they got to the mall, they did not have to wait long for chaperones/bodyguards to arrive. They were waiting outside as they arrived. After several short introductions of Eri to his sisters, Mina led the charge for clothes, stating she had to be home soon. It was not as bad as the time they had taken 𝗏𝗡𝐿𝐼a shopping, but it was still a bit hectic as they tried to get everything done as fast as possible while making sure they got everything they need. Izuku only made 2 trips to the car and then they grabbed some dinner before they all had to be taken home. Izuku noted that by the end of the ride home that Toru and Pony seemed to messaging a lot on their phones. Before he could ask, Eri started to ask him questions about his home. After getting dropped off at his home, he got the girls and the bags inside without any problem. Inko was waiting for them as they came in. She helped get Eri's clothing sorted and in a shared drawer with 𝗏𝗡𝐿𝐼a's clothing. Soon it was time for them to get wound down for bed. Inko got them bathed and dressed in pajamas as Izuku got a few books to read for them. Inko and Izuku figured that Eri would have the same problems as 𝗏𝗡𝐿𝐼a did in the beginning of Nightmares. Izuku made a pile of pillows and blankets on the floor of his bedroom large enough for the 3 of them. When it was time, Izuku got both girls to lay down as he read them a few stories. Eri had Fireheart's egg within arm's reach. Before he finished with the second book, both girls were curled against him on each side. His mother had been watching him from the doorway with a smile as he took care of them. She turned out the light and headed for bed herself. Izuku laid back gently as possible. He drifted off as sleep, exhausted for the day's events. Eri woke up twice during the night from nightmares, but Izuku had been able to get her back to sleep quickly after she realized that she was still with Izuku. 𝗏𝗡𝐿𝐼a woke up one time when Eri did, but she went back to sleep when Eri went back to sleep. While Izuku was getting the girls ready for bed, a different conversation was going on. Girls' private chat was created by Mina Ishido. Ochako Uraraka has been invited to chat by Mina Ishido. Kyokajiru has been invited to chat by Mina Ishido. Setsuna Tokage has been invited to chat by Mina Ishido. Torhakagare has been invited to chat by Mina Ishido. Mei Hatsum has been invited to chat by Mina Ishido. Momo Yaoyorozu has been invited to chat by Mina Ishido. Pony Tsunatora has been invited to chat by Mina Ishido. Gravity Girl Ochako, I thought you were making a joint chat for both classes. Rock Goddess Kyoka, yeah, you are missing the rest of the girls from 1B. Alien Queen Mina, yeah, we wanted to talk to you girls before I made the other group. Lovely Phantom Toru, well, Mina and I felt it was better to have a chat like this for what we wanted to talk to you girls about. Forge Momo, what's about? Dino Girl Setsuna, yeah, what up? Tech Girl May, hey, what's going on? I was working on a baby with Melissa and then my phone started buzzing non-stop. Cowgirl Pony, well, it is something Toru told me about on the way home. Rock Goddess Kyoka, wait, was that what you guys were doing on the ride home? Alien Queen Mina, well, Miss Perfect Hearing, we didn't want you to get wind our questions. Forge Momo, what did you want to? Dino Girl Setsuna, yeah, my mischievous twin. What are you wanting to know about? Lovely Phantom Toru, I was talking to Mina about when I heard something noises coming from a supposedly empty classroom early this morning. A few minutes later, I watched the 5 of you exit the room followed by Izuku. Alien Queen Mina, so Toru and I am curious to what you were all doing in there with him, ladies. Cowgirl Pony, which one of you is dating Izuku? Rock Goddess Kyoka, Forge Momo, we were just checking on how 𝗏𝗡𝐿𝐼a was doing. Dino Girl Setsuna, yeah, we just wanted to talk away from everyone else. Gravity Girl Ochako, yep, just checking up on 𝗏𝗡𝐿𝐼a. Tech Girl May, is she talking about when we were getting our morning kisses from our Izuku? Gravity Girl Ochako, oh May? Tech Girl May, oops, thought it was our girls' chat. Sorry. Lovely Phantom Toru, OMG Alien Queen Mina, holy SHT Cowgirl Pony, wow, so how does that work exactly? Rock Goddess Kyoka, 𝗏𝗧𝗍𝗓, we love you anyway. May Forge Momo, may it is okay accident happen. Please be more careful in the future. Dino Girl Setsuna, welp, Raptor is out of the pen now. Gravity Girl Ochako, you girls are going to out us, are you? Alien Queen Mina, of course not. Alien Queen Mina, but we want details. Lovely Phantom Toru, does this mean I can get that date from Izuku? Alien Queen Mina, 𝗏𝗡𝐿𝐼a did try to set me up with a date with him as well. Cowgirl Pony, I'd like to know that as well. Izuku is nice and I enjoy being around the chibis. Forge Momo, let's discuss this like adults. Rock Goddess Kyoka, I bet my lunch money Izuku is going to short circuit tomorrow. Gravity Girl Ochako, nope, not taking a sucker's bet. Dino Girl Setsuna, pass on that bet as well. Tech Girl May, more friends. So, should I add them to the share drive then? Rock Goddess Kyoka, May. Alien Queen Mina, OH. What's on it? Tech Girl May, I have known Izuku since before UA and I watched him working out all the time. Occasional I would take pictures of him working out shirtless. I still do actually. Lovely Phantom Toru, yes please. Alien Queen Mina, yes please. Cowgirl Pony, yes please. Tech Girl May, Link Gravity Girl Ochako, Pony your Japanese has gotten better. Cowgirl Pony, actually, I have a program that lets me type in English and it translates it to Japanese. I can read it better than I can speak it sadly. Rock Goddess Kyoka, makes sense. Dino Girl Setsuna, so, you girls want the details huh? Lovely Phantom Toru, yes. Forge Momo, well it all started for Setsuna and I when we were watching the UA entrance exam.